This podcast is a member of the Place to Be Nation family. Visit us at placetobenation.com, the only place to be in your pop culture world.
Come on. We call it the place to be. The place to be, yes, it's the place to be. Then I shall be.
It is contagious. It is the place to be, and we are live each and every Monday.
Do you actually need a camera for tout, or is it like part of the program?
Yeah, I like big dick myself. I was just
the man you see in the place to be.
Do you listen at all when I speak on the show?
I'm not the one who thrives on whining about carriages that are 3 inches from my fucking car.
So if it's too much for you and your big cock of the walk Knights of Columbus fat cat,
when does it end,
to bring
JR?
the carriage back to the fucking thing, then what do you want? What do you want?
When does it
You're
end?
making the poor guy making minimum wage while you're sitting there with our Mento going through the coffer. Party people in the place to be.
5 years. 5 years! We've been doing podcasts. And we have this. This is trash.
It's not Austin in LA. It's not Cabana in Chicago. It's not Conrad down in Alabama. Place to Be Nation presents Scott Criscolo and JT Rosero. This is the Place to Be Podcast.
To do worse than Josh Richard.
Gentlemen, the immortal Hulk Hogan, and in his corner announced just a few days ago, the Big Boss Man. Here we go, Hulkster.
You know something, Earthquake? I remember what it felt like to be underneath your massive frame as you came crashing down on my ribcage. And I also remember you, Dino Bravo, and Jimmy Hart laughing out loud as they rolled me out in that stretcher, man. I remember the tears in the eyes of all my little Hulksters, wondering if this was really the end of Hulkamania. Question that even I wondered about myself. But most of all, I remember the outpouring of all my Hulkamaniacs, all their cards, man, all their letters, and thank God for all their prayers. And I also remember the man who was leading the charge of all my Hulkamaniacs, the big bad Tugboat. You know something, Earthquake? The memory is still fresh in my mind of you and Dino Bravo double-teaming the Tugboat, making sure he wouldn't be in my corner here at SummerSlam. And that's why we're dedicating this match tonight to the Tugster. And it's also why your plan's not gonna work, Earthquake, because I'm not going into the ring on my own tonight. I've got the Big Boss Man on my side, making sure that justice will be served.
Let me tell you something, Earthquake. Dino Bravo, Jimmy Hart, this is Philadelphia, where many of the rights of the people were first formulated. But the only rights you three are entitled to are the right to be beaten into silence, the right to have millions of fans present during that beating, and the right to a swift and impartial trial, with Justice Judge Hogan presiding.
Big Boss Man, I can tell you your founding fathers would be mighty proud.
You know something? That's right, Mean Gene. Another chapter in American history will be written tonight. And just as Thomas Bossman Jefferson stood at the side of George Washington Hogan as I chopped down the cherry tree with the 24-inch pythons, we'll chop you down, Earthquake, and the Hulkster never tells a lie. So what you gonna do when the Hulkster and the Big Boss Man pass their constitutional rights on to you?
I can hardly wait for this one, Vince. Let's get back to you.
I'm gonna dive in the ride and see now what I can find. Now if your daddy's rich, take her out for a meal, and if your daddy's poor, just do what you feel. It's speeding down the lane, even though the speed limit is 25. And when the sun goes down, I'll make it with my cutie pie.
Who's it?
Pretty little woman, sexy as can be, sweet as honey, sting like bumblebee. Shall we say pretty little woman?
Place to Be Nation, welcome back to the great episode of the one and only Place to Be Podcast. I am the host, Joseph Rosero, coming to you live here on this Monday evening inside the PTB studios. Joining me as always is my PIC, Mr. Scott Criscolo. Scott, how are you?
Good evening, JR. Always a pleasure. Good evening, Place to Be Nation. Welcome to episode 545 on the longest running episodic motherfucking not stopping for anything at all gold. Then a lot of Dusty tonight. Sad Dusty, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's a rough night for Dust.
Rough night for Big Dust. But we're here, and it's good to be with you. We are not in the normal.
No.
That's an understatement.
We're in the upside down.
You're in the upside down. Demogorgons everywhere.
Dark and ugly upside down. Yeah, it's funny because when we last left you, we talked about all the changes that had happened, and but we were still, I guess, God, was it only 2 weeks ago? We were still thinking we may be going to Tampa. It seems like it's been a year.
I know.
Because at that time, we were talking about our upcoming schedule, that this would be our last show for a month, and sadly, that is not the case. We've reshuffled again, and we'll be with you now every 2 weeks as normal, since Tampa obviously is not happening. Although, the way things are going, if the country does get reopened, you wonder if they could have had it still. But anyway, it's an argument for another time. Yeah. But no, it's good to be back here, and it's an exciting show tonight, not only because of what we're covering, but because of the guests we have on the line. Now, as per usual, when we have a pay-per-view episode, we'll bring in the man who is one of my co-hosts on the Extreme Three-Way Dance over at the North-South Podcast Connection Network, and North-South Connection Podcast Network, I should say, and also is a co-host of This Week in the NFL, and that is Johnny D'Amato. Johnny, how are you?
All right, the summer windbag blowing in from across the sea.
Always nice to be serenaded, not urinated on, serenaded by you, but always nice. And John, actually, we talked last night. We had our Curb Your Enthusiasm Season 10 pod blast, me, you, and Sousa and Don. That was a good time.
Yes, you got that up quick. It was a good time, and maybe some more shenanigans in the future. Who knows?
Some more Curb-related content in the hopper. And also joining us is a PTB longtime fan. He is a longtime member of the PTB tailgate parties as well. I was looking so forward to seeing him in a couple weeks, and sadly we won't, but at least we get to talk. Making his Place to Be podcast debut, the host of Row 1, Seat 1, Ben Zani. Ben, how are you?
I miss your scent. I miss your musk.
Miss everything. Miss your moonshine.
It's just, man, I miss the moonshine.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I miss.
we had some party favors planned, man, and it was. I'm still crushed about Tampa. Absolutely crushed about Tampa because I had 15 shows in 5 days I was going to. I had the whole thing planned out. This was my one vacation a year, and just dashed. Absolutely dashed.
It's awful, man. It's not good. Yep. I think we're all going to be on or the dogs in the pool area suicide watch come WrestleMania weekend, all of us, especially like that Thursday when we were supposed to be landing, like at least for us. I don't know when you guys were, I know when John, you were getting there, Ben, I'm not sure when you were rolling in, but around that
Wednesday morning. Yeah.
Yeah. That Wednesday, Thursday is going to be rough for all of us. I think we're all going to be in a bad place come next week, but we'll see. Hopefully we're out of solitary confinement by then anyway. At least that's how it seems. All right, so we teased it. We have a really big episode on tap for tonight. That is SummerSlam 1990. Now, last episode, we had just one set of Herb Kunze notes, and sadly, we just have one again tonight because he's still on summer vacation from the University of Waterloo. But we wanted to save this one for this evening, so we'll dive in. Here are some notes from Herb to set up tonight's show. I happened to be near a terminal, decided to type in some what I heard over the past couple weeks. Hope you've all enjoyed it. My vacation ends in a couple more weeks, and I'll resume my weekly postings and respond to any emails I've received in August. The hottest news I've heard in the past couple weeks is that Ole Anderson has been recently fired as booker in the NWA.
Yep.
I still hear talk that
sucks.
I still hear talk that Kerry Von Erich will dye his hair black with silver streaks. Vince will be dropping the name Kerry shortly. Simply calling him the Texas Tornado, except for in Texas, where they'll still call him Von Erich because of the name. Incidentally, when it was announced that Kerry Von Erich would be the tag partner of the Ultimate Warrior upcoming in Toronto, ticket sales were brisk. The guy just may have some appeal in the WWF. So obviously this is one that does not occur. I don't know what. Yeah, I don't know what the thinking was here. Black hair and silver streaks, but
that's terrible. That is absolutely terrible. At least he got Ole right.
Right, that's one and one so far. Midget wrestler Little Beaver passed away a couple weeks ago at the age of 52. Oh. Best known for taking a body slam for King Kong Bundy at WrestleMania 3. As I mentioned before, Bundy would like to rejoin the WWF. It seems that King Kong will join Jimmy Hart's stable, which will allow Vince to team him and Earthquake. So again, one of those. I'm not going to call him wrong necessarily on this one because we don't know. This could have been talked about at the time.
I'd be all about that Fat Man team. That would be amazing.
I mean, it's possible it's being discussed because, we're not that far from Earthquake getting a Fat Man teammate. So there's a chance maybe this was the original plan.
Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been a step up from what eventually they did. Man.
Yeah. Old Tugger.
The Tugster.
Poor Uncle Fred. The Tugster.
Word is that Roddy Piper will replace Jesse Ventura as television announcer. Speaking of Jesse, he's been quoted as saying he's left WWF under non-hostile circumstances and may eventually rejoin. Sadly, not the case. I hear some mixed reports on Brutus Beefcake. I had heard, much like some of the network chatter I've caught, that Beefcake was recovering faster than anticipated. But I've also heard reports that his condition worsened to the point where he lost the use of his right eye. Beefcake underwent 56 hours of reconstructive surgery. Talk about either or. He's either ahead of schedule or has no vision.
Did he say 5 to 6 hours?
56 hours.
56 hours.
Yep.
56 hours in a row?
Again? Oh, no, maybe just total. Made total of 56 hours.
Say,
so
my
far.
God. That's ridiculous.
It's like Brian Pillman's 33 and a third throat operation.
That's right.
Hulk Hogan's wife has given birth to their second child, Nicholas, who weighed in 8 pounds and 2 ounces. I'd have been better off if that hadn't happened. We should be seeing NWA champion Sting in a Burger King commercial real soon.
You know why Nick Hogan didn't appear at SCI?
Why is that?
Why?
We told him to take a left at the light, and he took it too literally.
Rumors have it that Mr. Fuji and the Orient Express will be taking an express trip out of the WWF for the end of summer, so we can mark that one as incorrect. Rick Martel's out with a pinched nerve in his shoulder. He's already missing a lot of house shows, being subbed for by Iron Mike Sharp. There's worry he won't be back for SummerSlam. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Rumors also have the Hart Foundation ready to fight Demolition with the same fire by adding a third member. It's reported that Owen Hart has been approached to join the Hart Foundation. Doesn't seem likely because Owen is supposed to be headed to the NWA when he gets back from Japan, having pushed his August start date to September and then December. The knowledge that and the fact that September marriages have the 3 demos versus the Road Warriors and Ultimate Warrior make me wonder if the 3 Hart really figure into the picture. Then again, the 3 Warriors versus 3 demos are supposed to be short-lived, with Warrior versus Randy Savage feud emerging shortly. Now, this is a rare Herb idea or rumor that would have been kind of cool if they worked Owen into the group. Made it more. Like
I'm sure he was. I'm sure he was experienced enough to the point where he could have fit in pretty comfortably.
For sure. Yeah.
At that point,
If they were heels, it would have been better. I don't see it as faces though to add him as a third guy.
It would have had to be more like a stable or something where maybe they wrestle like Brett gets Brett, like kind of what they eventually do, right? Where Brett becomes a solo and Owen and Anvil work as the team. Maybe if they bring them in slowly and then split off like that, they could have done it. But what do you think, Ben?
That's fine.
I think it would have been cool, but I think that Owen really flourished as a single more than even he was so held back in that Neidhart tag team. It was ridiculous.
Yeah.
And with Coco.
Tony Atlas is due back in the WWF shortly, having lost his ICW title to Vic Steamboat. It seems that he'll be known as an Olympian or something to that effect. Not quite. Not quite.
Swinging a miss.
Olympian.
Tony's one of 2 wrestlers to have legitimately pinned Hulk Hogan since 1980 in Shea Stadium. The Ultimate Warrior is the other. I don't count Andre since I'm still trying to forget that evil twin referee angle. Herb, not a fan of the gimmickry.
No, he wasn't.
Okay. All right, we do have some other notes here on the build since Saturday's main event. Even though we talked about Fever, there's some stuff in here we didn't cover. So on August 4th, Superstars during a SummerSlam report, following matches were announced. Dusty Rhodes versus Randy Savage, Sapphire versus Sensational Sherry, and the Rockers versus Paul Roma and Hercules. There was an in-ring segment where Nikolai Volkov was presented with the Medal of Honor by the Boy Scouts of America for his contributions to world peace, strength, and unity. And the crowd all stood to recite the Pledge of Allegiance.
Oh, nice.
There was a promo from Sapphire, which she said she'd been given a cruise around the world from her unknown admirer and was told to keep the gifts coming. On 8/7/90 at the Challenge tapings, Vince McMahon substituted for Gorilla Monsoon in commentary. Monsoon was having his toe amputated. Is it diabetes playing a role there maybe or something? But
yeah, no, it was. Yeah, it was.
Hulk Hogan was to have done an interview at the taping, but didn't because his father underwent triple bypass surgery. 8/11 Superstar, Sapphire showed off a 19-carat diamond ring she got from her admirer. And Mr. Perfect defeated Randy Fox. After the match, Kerry Von Erich came out and challenged Mr. Perfect to that Intercontinental title match. We'll see tonight. And in a SummerSlam report, they announced Tito Santana versus Rick Martel and Jim Duggan and Nikolai Volkov versus the Orient Express at SummerSlam. So it looks like we're finally going to get that Strikeforce blow-off Santana Martel on pay-per-view that we haven't gotten yet. On 8/19, the Superstars was the final appearance of Jesse Ventura on WF television for nearly 8 years. IC champion Mr. Perfect Bobby Heenan accepted Kerry Von Erich's challenge for SummerSlam, and Tugboat defeated Bob Bradley by DQ when Dino Bravo interfered right after the match started. After the bout, Tugboat was double-teamed by Earthquake and Bravo. Earthquake hit 2 sit-down splashes before Big Boss Man made the save. Moments after, Tugboat was taken backstage on a stretcher and forced him out of Hulk Hogan's corner at SummerSlam. So Tugger will no longer be.
There's always theories on did he do something before this match? Like, did he get like some sort of violation? I mean, because by all accounts, he should have been there.
Yeah, I think honestly for this one, it was more about them wanting to give Boss Man the rub. I think they saw more in him at that point.
I agree.
That's my guess.
I think that's what it was too. No, I concur with that theory. Boss Man was hotter. Tugboat had time. He was relatively new still. Relatively speaking.
Not even that. I just don't think they saw much in him as like a... Like, I figure maybe they'd already gotten enough. I mean, he's still buddies with Hogan from here. I think they just wanted to get Boss Man on the show, and they give him a couple roles. That's my guess. I think that they saw him being a better fit for this.
Right. That's true. Yeah.
All right.
Obviously...
Yeah.
Oh, we're done?
No, one more. On 8/25, Roddy Piper took over for Jesse Ventura on commentary. Hulk Hogan was a guest of the Brother Love show. He brought out the Big Boss Man and said he would be in his corner now. And there was an announcement that Rick Martel would be attending a modeling contest in Paris. It would not be at SummerSlam to face Tito Santana. Replacing him will be the Massive Warlord. I remember that announcement and being very sad because I was looking forward to that match.
Me too.
And it looks like it was the shoulder, obviously, injury was keeping Martel from participating. But it's too bad. It would have been cool to have that on a card that, as we'll see, kind of lacks in-ring action. That would have been a good one to be able to throw in here.
I agree. Yeah.
But there you go. They
ended up milking that feud for like 3 years, didn't they?
It's been a while. Yeah, because they broke up at April '89, and here we are, finally set to have it. But alas, foiled again. All right, Scott, you want to set up the show?
Yeah, of course, no house shows or anything tonight. Everyone is in the fine city of Philadelphia for the first time in WWF pay-per-view history. We are in Philadelphia, the iconic Spectrum. No Johnny, no Cal Rudman. What a bummer. Your date, August 27th, 1990, Full House. And I was pumped for the show. I really was. Great summer of wrestling. Didn't have, I knew on paper it didn't have the sizzle that 89 did, but I was optimistic. I was feeling good. Your announcers, as JR mentioned, Vince McMahon and Roddy Piper. Is this Vince's first pay-per-view since 2?
Yeah, it may have been, because it's either been Shivani or Gorilla, I think.
Yeah, right. So this is Vince's first play-by-play on pay-per-view since the New York 3rd of WrestleMania 2, so over 4 years.
And he's only doing it because of the toe amputation, it seems like.
And it obviously would have been Jesse and Piper, which would have been pretty awesome. And we'll get Jesse and Piper.
Gorilla. Well, it would have been Gorilla.
Gorilla and Piper. I'm sorry, Gorilla and Piper.
Well, it would have been Gorilla and Jesse, and then Gorilla and Piper, and now Vince and Piper. That's where
yes, I know. Sucks. Jesse and Piper would have been fucking great, but obviously it didn't happen. So we get pumped up. Crowd's hot, JR. Let's dive in. Match 1.
I do wonder if... what do you guys think Piper's role would have been if Jesse didn't leave? Do you think they just keep him active fully, or do you think they transition him to an announced role anyway and just have him do something else?
I think they would have brought the Pit back, just as a babyface thing. Because then they pretty much just wasn't Brother Love show kind of bonked by then, or was that 91?
No, it's still going until 7 is when that ends.
Okay. I have a feeling if he was not announcing, they would have brought the Pit back. Because obviously he wasn't prepared to wrestle. So I think they would have put him in some... maybe he'd have done...
He probably would have done part-time wrestling, because he kind of does that anyway. But
yeah, but I would say that he... I think they bring the Pit back. What do you think, Johnny?
Yeah, they probably would have squeezed him into the... either here or on... what was it? Superstars are still running, or... Between that or Prime Time, they would have gave him a regular gig. But I think it was still up in the air whether the tag team show with Jesse was going to get picked up. So there was nothing to make a full-time commitment with. So it was just part-time stuff.
Yeah. What do you think, Ben?
I think you can only do him part-time because you're always worried about his movie career.
Right.
You know, you don't know when he's going to go off and shoot a movie for 6 months. So I think he would have been part-time, but I don't think they would have, they felt like they could count on him, and then until they actually, I guess they must have got a commitment from him or something like that to do this year or TV.
Right.
No, I think it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah. So anyway, he's here now with VK, and let's dive in, JR. What do we got?
Right. Our dark match of the night was Shane Douglas defeating Buddy Rose. We'll get more into Shane and the Playboy Buddy Rose taking the L on the undercard there. And then Vince McMahon narrates that iconic open as he welcomes us into SummerSlam. Him and Piper set up the show ahead, and Piper, as would be a norm for him going forward, gets his first Iraqi dig in as we are.
Yes.
Had Desert Shield started yet? It had to have around this time, right?
I think the invasion was around that time.
The invasion was August 2nd.
Okay.
So the invasion of Kuwait was only 25 days old. I don't think Shield started yet.
Okay.
Shield might have been in like October, November.
Right. Okay.
So.
And also, he gets a Wham Bam SummerSlam, which I'll say about 10 more times.
Yes.
And he kicks it off by saying, bagpipes are hot and Baghdad is not.
Yes.
It looks like Desert Shield did start. It started August 2nd, ended January 17th. Desert Storm started January 17th until February 28th.
Desert Shield started the day that they invaded. Okay.
Yep. Looks like it. All right, so let's get rolling. Our opening match, Rockers take on the newly formed team of Power and Glory. We saw them with an awesome squash on the SummerSlam Fever show a week ago, and it's a fun opener. The Rockers have been on fire. Power and Glory has been a revelation, awakening the careers of both guys, like we talked about, Scott. Big pop for the Rockers. Power and Glory are already in the ring. They attack the Rockers at ringside, smash Sean's knee with a chain. Piper says Power and Glory are hungry, while the Rockers have been out dating too much. Power and Glory double up on Marty, but he fights them off and cleans house in a hot flurry while Sean is writhing on the floor. Power and Glory stooge around until Slick ties up the ref. Power and Glory overwhelm him and cut him down. Marty gets a small package on Roma, but Slick ties up the ref until Herc busted up. Herc slugs away, but Marty dumps him outside. Roma comes right in. They trade blows, as the ref has zero control of what's going on here. Roma slings Marty hard to the corner. Hercules goes out and stomps on Sean's knee to keep him there. Marty keeps trying to fight back. He gets some flash covers, but Power and Glory are flawless in their tags and their double teams as they keep control. Roma takes out Michaels again as Piper says Sean should have stayed there because he can't do much anyway if he gets inside. Herc drops Marty with a nice delayed press slam as Vince says Sean had a bad knee coming in here. Piper said they were running their mouth about it. They should have kept it to themselves. Power and Glory continue to dominate. Roma starts to work the back, but Marty survives. Marty gets a scoop power slam and knocks down both guys. Marty heads up top. It's a flying fist drop, but Hercules makes a save. Marty stays alive as he gets whacked by a sick clothesline by Hercules, who was standing on the apron. We get more quick tags, and they mix in double teams as Piper is really putting over their work. Hercules is laying in the wood here to Marty, mowing him down, and then tagging Roma to finish him with the wonderful, beautiful, perfect, delicious Powerplex for the win. Such a beautiful heel beatdown. They made Power and Glory look like stars. And they did it in a way that didn't really hurt the Rockers either, by taking Sean out with the chain and just letting Marty get his shit pushed in. Sean gets shoved in the ring, and then they beat the crap out of his knee until Marty covers him to protect him. Real good statement match. It was well executed. Didn't overstay its welcome. It was crisp. Great heel squash with a few hope spots from Marty and great selling. I thought this was perfectly done as an opener. I went 2.5 stars. And it, reminds you a little bit of the Brainbusters Strike Force stuff, but this was bell-to-bell dominance from Power and Glory, and a great way to kick off their pay-per-view run, Scott.
I agree 100%. 2.5 for me as well. Your match time, 5:59. So like you said, a nice, crisp, fast open. You don't want to give Hercules, that long a time. And obviously, they're either A, they wanted to book it this way to kind of protect the Rockers, or B, Sean must have legitimately been hurt because he doesn't get in the match at all. He gets jumped with the chain. He lays on the outside. Barely. Yeah. He doesn't get beat down. He just lays out there like they didn't give any. There weren't any cheap shots given to him. They pretty much gave Marty the business. Pretty much the whole match.
Sean was definitely hurt because he ends up missing some time after this.
Yeah. So this was set up perfectly. Mm-hmm. Sean, it's a cheap shot, so it's it kind of protects the Rockers. And Power and Glory are just. They're really good. This was a good tag team that needed to be built because we kind of missed that brain bust. You just mentioned JR. We missed that brain busters-ish kind of team of kind of cerebral, arrogant kind of heels, but not the demolition way or anything like that. But like a team like the Brain Busters, who you couldn't stand because they were that good. And both these guys needed it, and I thought it was a great match, John. They hit the gas for 6 minutes, got what it needed to be done, got the crowd fired up. Good start to the show. Yeah,
I love the match. 3 stars for me. But what's depressing, though, right out the gate is the commentary. We went from WrestleMania 6, probably the greatest of all time with Gorilla and Jesse, commentary, to Vince and Roddy. It's such a step down, and on both sides. And just Roddy, right away you're going to get racism, homophobia, stuff that we don't condone here, but we're just going to repeat it just for the just for purposes like he's talking about the Rockers. They look like David Bowie and Mick Jagger, and especially when Marty was trying to protect him and like laying on him, he was because there was insinuations back then about David Bowie and Mick Jagger, just stuff like that. He's talking about Hercules. What does he bring? He brings the jawbone of an ass. I don't just stuff that doesn't make sense. Just like we saw last time with the Eat in a Garage or whatever the hell he's talking about. just Roddy's all over the place. His batting average is a little low too. He hits about 2 out of 10. But as far as the action, just tremendous. The beat down and also a great shot of when Shawn was trying to be a hero, trying to get back in it, and Roma kicking his leg off and just keeping him out there. Just constant double teaming. It was good that they gave Power and Glory just that to emphasize the double team, and they didn't overload them with too many complicated moves, and they executed to perfection. Roma with the dickish pin with the foot on the friggin' chest, and then I loved after that they continued the beatdown. It was very effective. It really put them over strong. I like this a lot.
Piper too seems confused here because he eventually settles into this being pretty much a face, but he acts very heelish throughout this whole show. Like he's really talks up the heels, and he kind of craps on some of the faces. He's not like full blown heel, but he's like 70% heel here. And I don't know if that's 100% what they're going for, because by the next time we hear him on pay-per-view, he's not that way at all. Ben, what did you think of this match?
I was going to say Piper, Jannetty and Michaels must have owed him money because he was burying the shit out of them like left and right, especially Michaels.
Yeah, he was.
Yeah, it looks like they've been dating too many ladies and stuff like that.
He just, but he's a babyface the other half of the show, so it's just you could tell which guys he liked and which guys he didn't. Because he would just go out of his way to bury particular baby faces that he just didn't have an affinity for. So I think he's got a thing against them. Power and Glory, we need more tag teams to come out in half shirts.
Absolutely.
Cut off the midriff shirts.
Maybe that should be the tailgate look next year.
That's money. To see this belly. Also, this may have been Marty's best televised performance. He was pinballing around. He was getting home spots. He was a revelation. And not that he wasn't good before, but he was an absolute revelation in this match because he had to carry the whole damn thing against 2 questionable workers, and he made them look like $1 million. This is Marty Jannetty at his best.
No, he was fantastic here, just putting on a clinic of selling and hope spots and comebacks. And I think Power and Glory ends up setting the template. We'll eventually see with the teams like New Age Outlaws and others to come, where whatever the fuck the saying is, but them together is way better than them apart. For whatever reason, they just mesh, and because they're both limited, maybe in the tag setting they're better because they're not in there having to carry whole matches. And I mean, Hercules looked like, this isn't just saying what he looks like physically, but really just a dead man walking for a while. Push wise, I mean, his matches had become meandering and really fallen apart over the last half a year.
They definitely did.
So this
shot life into him.
Yeah, completely resuscitated both guys, which is cool. And unfortunately, as we'll see, maybe not enough of what we should have gotten from them.
I gave it 2.5. Power and Glory's finisher should be repeated by every independent tag team on the landscape right now. That is
not come back. Yeah,
a top 5 all-time best tag team finisher.
Pretty awesome.
It's probably tough to get that timing down. That's probably why a lot of teams don't want to try that. That's risky to try it. Get that timing down.
Yeah, it's so beautiful, and they nail it almost every time. I think Roma's splash is so nice too, the way he gets the hang time on it, but it's so good.
I concur.
All Sean Mooney's backstage with Mr. Perfect to Bobby Heenan. Perfect says he's never prepared for a defense on such short notice, but because he's perfect, challenges are few and far between. Bobby says he knows all about Texas tornadoes. If you've seen one, you've seen them all. Tornado's head's in the clouds, and a tornado doesn't do much damage because you can see it coming from a mile away. They may kick up a little dust or tip over a few mobile homes. It's always one of my favorite Bobby dismissive promos here. Perfect wraps things up. Gene then talks to Tornado, says there are tornado warnings at the SummerSlam. Perfect should be wary of one coming to destroy everything in his path. He's powerful, unpredictable, and devastating. And when he heads back to the clouds, he'll be taking the Intercontinental title with him. And that sets up our
He was high as a kite during this promo.
He certainly is.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
I like both these promos, though. Like, Tornado, he's so zen as he's saying it that it comes off
That's
as...
one way to put it.
Right, extremely confident. And Perfect and Heenan are great, just being completely dismissive of this guy, not giving him any credit at all, or having much of a chance. So it's a good classic kind of heel, not knowing how to treat the newcomer. And that is our IC title match. Texas Tornado stepping in for Brutus Beefcake to take on Mr. Perfect. Huge pay-per-view debut for Von Erich stepping in. Perfect's entrance is so good. He's really nailed the character at this point. The confidence and the strut and the music and the towel and the gum, like just all of it together is all in place. We even get the rare bit of Perfect's late part of his theme song here when we get the Tornado promo with that weird little heart part that comes in real deep in the song. Tornado gets a solid pop as he comes out. Piper gets right to shitting on Bobby as we get going. Tornado shows the strength early, sending Perfect reeling to the floor. Perfect comes back with an arm drag and a hip toss and is really feeling himself in there. Tornado comes back with hard rights. They knock Perfect back outside where Bobby tells him he got lucky. Tornado gets to work on the arm, slugs away at Perfect. Perfect comes back with strikes and grabs a sleeper. Tornado breaks that up, trips up Perfect, sends him into the post with a slingshot. Perfect bounces back. Tornado grabs a claw and then smashes him with the Tornado discus punch for the win, and just a monster pop. And really a shocking finish with Perfect falling in such a short match. Like, I don't know if anyone expected this to only go 5 minutes. And I don't want to call it a squash because Perfect does get a lot of offense, but definitely an oddly handled match. Tornado gets a huge push out of the gate and a cool makeup for Brutus. So I don't give them any guff here for switching the title. I'm sure Beefcake was going to win anyway, but you kind of had to have Tornado win it here. You can't bring him in and then have Perfect keep it. Not much of a match, but a great moment. And again, it makes sense to me, Johnny. I went 2 stars here.
Yeah, me too. I don't think it was like a squash. Perfect got a lot of offense.
Yep.
I think pretty much for the short time he pretty much dominated because they probably don't want to give Tornado too much responsibility. Just come up with come up with your 3 hot moves at the end and pop the crowd, and that's it. So, yeah. And Vince and Roddy, they really emphasized that how it was only 10 days notice, 10 days notice. So they really foreshadowed it pretty good. So, yeah, 2 stars.
And they teed it up with all the just taking him so lightly in the promos and everything like that. Like this, who's this newcomer is not going to be Mr. Perfect. Ben, what did you think of this one?
I'm going to tell you why this is a 3-star match.
Okay.
Texas Tornado had one fucking leg. He had a perfectly serviceable match with one leg.
1 foot.
1 foot. 1 foot. He had 1 foot. And, this guy, not enough has been made of the fact that this guy, he wasn't a great wrestler on one leg, but he was still wrestling perfectly believable, serviceable matches, even if they were 5-minute matches, on 1 foot.
He was baked. He was baked out of his mind.
Yeah, he was baked out of his mind. This is, talk about obstacles, like this guy. This guy did it on one foot, and it was a perfectly fine little match. It told a story, but if they just publicized the fact that he had 1 foot and let him be, a hero to the amputee community or something like that, and really, seriously, show off that he could do all these things on 1 foot. Imagine the goodwill that they would have gotten.
Yeah, no, it's a good point that they didn't capitalize on. I think if that was now, they would be. That's all they probably talk about for whatever reason in 1990. Maybe it was looked at as a point of weakness or embarrassment or something. And but yeah, no, it's a good point. I've really thought about.
Yeah, maybe Tornado didn't want to say anything, because he was not exactly a right mind. Yeah, I'll hop around on one leg. Yeah, why not? Probably felt he was on one leg anyway. Yeah, I gave this match 2 stars. Very generous, Ben, but I like your fire on that one. Your time, as JR mentioned, 5:13. I don't want to say I was surprised he lost, I am surprised at how short the match was.
Yeah,
but
that was
as
the biggest
Johnny
surprise.
alluded to.
Yeah.
As Johnny alluded to, I don't know how much longer it could have gone without it starting to look really bad. So,
I'm kind of curious. Like, I guess we can track it as we go, but obviously we're not going to watch every match he was in. I wonder what the longest Tornado was in a one-on-one, not a tag or a six-man or anything. What his longest singles match was in the WWF. If anyone out there wants to do the research and let us know, I'm curious how much they protected him and didn't let him go out there and have long matches. Like, I can't imagine him going longer than 10 minutes. Like, I can't think of any off the top of my head.
Oh, Lord, no.
I doubt it, yeah.
He had 1 foot, though. That's 10 minutes longer than most people can go on 1 foot.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And the drugs.
Maybe they didn't want to. You know what it was, Ben? Maybe they didn't want to. What's what I'm thinking of? Not accentuate. Maybe they didn't want to promote the fact that he lost his foot because he was a reckless motorcycle driver and he didn't lose it from like
he was high barefoot on a motorcycle.
Yeah, exactly. It wasn't. He didn't. It's not like he had cancer and he wasn't Terry Fox or something. He didn't have cancer.
It's true.
But yeah, I agree with you, JR. I can't imagine even on house shows him going more than 7 minutes or 8 minutes.
Yeah. Well, we'll see as we go.
Yeah. But a new Intercontinental Champion out of the blue.
Yes, and not a very long first reign for Perfect. He won it in late April, so his first pay-per-view defense, he falls. Mean Gene's backstage as he planned to talk to Sapphire, who was with Dusty Rhodes earlier, but now is not available. Mr. Perfect and Bobby Heenan storm in. Bobby's flipping out, says Tornado broke rules, the match, and then threatens to knock out Gene. Perfect talks some shit, says he has a lump for the post, but he will be back to reclaim what belongs to the family. Bobby says it was terrible officiating. Just a top-notch, tremendous pissed-off promo from both guys here.
Absolutely. Bobby's the best at that.
Yeah.
I was surprised it was in Philly. Bobby sounds like a Boston fan or something.
Hey.
Yeah, he was bitching about the refs, so... All right, let's head back to the ring for the big ostensibly the big blow-off. And this one that's been brewing since January. His sensational Queen Sherry takes on Sweet Sapphire. Sherry comes out in the ring, full cat makeup and mask, ready for the showdown. 9 months in the making. We talked about her
Prime
cat.
Sherry.
We talked about her cat gimmick at SummerSlam Fever, and she is fully ensconced here.
Maybe if Sherry was still alive, the Cats movie wouldn't have bombed so bad.
Dusty's theme hits, but Sapphire's a no-show. We wait a bit, and the music keeps rolling. We hit the announcement a few times, but still nothing. Roddy says maybe the polka dots turn to stripes. Still nothing. Roddy wonders maybe she's making pancakes. Johnny is the racism we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, there it is. It's Aunt Jemima. There it is.
Yep.
Oh, my God. What goes through your head to even say that?
It's stripes. Come on.
My Lord. Awful. Eventually,
Come
Renee...
on, Sapphire. Come on, Sapphire.
Eventually, Renee Goulet comes out, talks to the ref and the Fink. We get an official count from the ref and Fink of 30 seconds. Vince says he doesn't think she'll make it out here that time because a fat joke in, of course. Once Fink hits 10, Sherry screeches into the mic, which is awful, and Sapphire is counted out. Sherry celebrates the big win, just pushing the storyline, which is fine. I don't think we needed the match here. But, boy. Ben, any thoughts on this part here?
This messed with me because American Dream is my ringtone. And they played it like twice all the way through, and I kept on thinking I had a phone call.
Scott, John, anything else?
Sapphire would be blue. Good.
As if the fans weren't disappointed enough, Renee Goulet had to come down and to further disappoint the fans.
I kind of wish that
with his Dumb and Dumber hair.
I kind of wish Gorilla was there though, because he would have made the Michael Jackson of the WWF reference.
That's right.
When he came out.
I'm surprised we didn't get any. Yeah, I'm surprised Piper didn't say, Sapphire would look good shaped like a maple syrup bottle.
Oh God. You did enough damage here.
All right. We head backstage.
And shed some light on Sapphire's current whereabouts. I tell you, Mean Gene, I don't know. I wish I knew where she was. 10 minutes after we got to the building, she disappeared. And I went looking for her. I searched the building high and low. I looked in every nook and cranny. Asked every security guard. I said, hey, have you seen Sweet Sapphire? It's almost as she disappeared into thin air. I
I don't mind telling you, Mean Gene, and everyone who's listening, I'm worried. I'm worried big time, because you've never done anything like this before. Hey, Hacksaw, have you seen Sapphire, baby?
No, I haven't, Dust, but we're all still looking for her.
Well, what about these gifts she's been receiving, Dusty? I know you've been concerned about the anonymous and certainly the lavish nature of them.
You bet I'm concerned, Gene, because nobody gets something for nothing. But that's not my business. It's Sweet Sapphire's business. And besides, she's been the happiest she's ever been. She got a diamond ring. She got a full-length mink coat. She got a diamond and sapphire necklace. She got a cruise around the world. She got a gold bracelet. And she got a brand new Cadillac. But, baby, where is she? I'm sorry, Gene. I got to go and find Sapphire.
All right, as the search for Sapphire continues, I'm reminded that she did say she'd be receiving the biggest gift of all here at SummerSlam. Unfortunately, however, it looks as if she may not be here to receive it. Vince, let's get back to you.
So I look around and said, hey, have you seen it? He's going to put it in that he said, hey. Of course, one of our most iconic promos here on the Place to Be podcast, Scott, dating back to 2011. We've been talking about that one in 2012 whenever we did that episode. Just an all-time classic moment, Scott.
Yes. He's still looking for her.
I expected the update right now, actually.
Every nook and cranny.
Yeah.
When Hacksaw delivered that line, it reminds me of like when you were like in 5th and 6th grade, and they give like the kid with the least personality and the least charisma. They gave him like his one line in a play, and
just nailed it.
Yeah, and he had to rehearse it like 30 times before finally nailing it. It's just
it's like Rotella. It's like Rotella in The Christmas Place. He gets that one line, and he comes out on fire. So good.
It kills me every time. I can watch it 100 times and it would still be funny like the 100th time.
Oh, it's tremendous.
We're all still looking for. So absurd. I still just picture him stomping around the building. All right, back to the ring. The Warlord is out there to take on Tito Santana. Warlord fully decked out in his new gear, looking like the Phantom of the Opera, which Roddy Piper says. Of course, drawn by Slick. I don't get why they didn't use Jive Soul for all the 6 guys. I may be biased, but I think it would have worked for everyone. Didn't just need to be Akeem. Tito gets a nice little pop. Gets another pay-per-view match against the Power of Pain. Good use of him. We saw him against the Barbarian back at WrestleMania. Piper says he won't call Tito a taco vendor or a bean eater, even though he has a lot of gas. I think he indirectly called them both by saying he wasn't going to call them both, but neither here nor there. Warlord chucks Tito around to start, but Tito uses his speed to dodge a charge and pepper away. Tito tries to go to the arm, but then drops him with a trio drop kick, sending the Warlord to the floor. Tito works the arm when he returns, leaps up on Warlord's shoulders, and slugs him to the mat. That was a cool spot. Warlord blows out of a pin, throws Tito right to the floor. Warlord follows out and slams Tito's back into the post as Slick ties up the ref. Piper, again, brings the casual racism with a random Jamaican accent to mock Slick. Oh, what are we going to do there? That's awful.
No, it was like Amos and Andy.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, because he was like, "Oh, Andy, what do we have here?" It was more. It wasn't Jamaican. It was even worse. It was.
Slick threatens to hit Tito with a shoe, which Piper says is chemical warfare. Warlord starts to batter the back and pound away in the corner. Warlord eats a boot on a charge. Tito gets 2 on a cross body and then hits the flying forearm, but Warlord barely gets his foot on the rope for a good save. I like that near fall. Tito tries a monkey flip. Warlord blocks it and just crushes him with the running power slam for the win. This is a fun little match. Tito worked his ass off. Warlord is a fine base for him. Gets some good power offense baked in. And despite being limited, had a good pairing with Slick in the mid-card. Like, he had a good look here. You look better here probably than any time during the Powers of Pain. A lot of that's on Tito, but the power offense looks sharp. So I went 2 stars, Johnny. A good little showcase for Warlord.
Yeah, a perfect 2 stars and perfect length. That's why the show is so good, because it just moves along at a crisp pace. The match lengths are fine, and with Tito, you're not gonna get anything less than 2 stars. And that was Vince that threw in that the shoe remark. He's going to use chemical warfare. You know, Vince loves that. You know, the gross stuff for attempted humor or whatever. And Pipe had one good one at the end. He's like, "Oh, Warlord, too big, too strong, and too ugly. Somebody feed him a fish."
Ben?
Warlord, talk about an era where they're doing steroids. Warlord's skin is literally stretched to his
oh my god,
tightest points basically, because his skin doesn't fit him.
No,
because he's on so many steroids. He's got so much muscle. His skin does not fit him. It's like trying to 5 pounds of potatoes and 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound sack. It's just But no, I give this 1.5 stars. It was perfectly fine. It was when you're highlighting Warlord, you can't really go too high.
I think it was fitting. At least they had some serendipity when they were thinking of a backup for Martel, because obviously at WrestleMania, Tito faced the other half of the former powers of Pain the Barbarian, and that match was equally as good. I also gave it 2 stars. It's Tito, so you're not gonna have you're not gonna get anything bad out of him at all. Your match time again 5:28. Johnny's right. These early matchups, I think they're preserving time for later in the show, but we've had 3 matches all between 5:10, 5:13 and 6 minutes. Good sprints, and Tito makes Warlord look like $1 million, even though he looks like kind of a misshapen cottage cheese. You're right on that, Ben. He's got like extra pec muscles, and his arms are too long. And they were drinking that shit in 1990. I mean, it's crazy. But fun match. It was a fun match. Again, Tito looking good, crowd looking hot. The commentary is just, I don't know if Vince borrowed his dad's joke book, but shoe jokes, sticky feet. It's like, fuck. It's our old Kukla, Fran, and Ollie gags. You know what I mean? It's like it's so bad. Let's use this joke from 1970. It's like ridiculous.
Well, I'd rather the corny stuff than the racist stuff. The taco vendor thing fucking just put my jaw on the floor.
Oh yeah, I'm not gonna call him that. Okay.
Really ridiculous.
All right, we get a Survivor Series promo coming in November, and then Sean Mooney's backstage with Demolition. He gives the background on Crush joining the group, says fans see this as an unfair advantage. Mooney said only 2 members were supposed to be here, but Axe says the fine print said only 2 at ringside. They run through all the possibilities, and they say it's too late for the Hearts to catch up to their games. They will demolish the Hearts. Mooney says that they win tonight, Leisure to Doom could be up next. Crush calls them imposters. Solid little promo for Demolition as they begin their descent down the mountain. Gene is in with the Hart Foundation, asks if it was disconcerting not to know their opponents. Brett says it's all been confusing. He's surprised it's not the original. He thought it'd be Axe and Smash. Anvil says it just goes in there. He doesn't care. Brett says they're anxious to be champs again, and now they only have to worry about 2 Demolition, and he fucks up. He says Axe and Crush instead of Smash and Crush. Anvil says they'll be giving them a heart attack, and of course Brett hits one of the most iconic Hart Foundation promo lines when he quotes Phil Collins with the 2 hearts beating as one. So great promo here. Any thoughts, Scott, on these 2 promos back to back?
Well, you could definitely tell that Demolition was starting to, run out of steam. Hart Foundation, obviously, one of the most motivated promos in 2 years, really. We had really kind of had them on the back burner. I know we talk about it all the time, JR, over the last 2 years of shows. But it's nice to see them back fired up and looking good. And Demolition, this is a different kind of heel thing for them, because when they were heels in 87 and most of 88, they weren't as vocal because they had Mr. Fuji. So this is a different kind of heel thing for them. But solid promos, guys. John, Ben, any thoughts?
Oh yeah, I love the Hearts. Brett's being all analytical, saying, "Oh, I thought it would be Axe and Smash," and then fucking Anvil with his fucking pink Jughead hat just says he doesn't care who it is. Anvil was tremendous, man.
Yeah, I don't think they let Brett in on the memo of who he'd be facing. That was kind of a problem.
Axe and Crush. All right, and then we head to the ring. Hart Foundation challenging Demolition for the tag team title. 2 years later, they had a match, of course, at SummerSlam 88 when Demolition retained. And then a year ago, if you remember, the Brainbusters defeated Hart Foundation to open SummerSlam 89. And what did Jesse Ventura predict?
He said they won't get another title chance for a year.
Yeah, if they lose this match, they won't be a year before they get a title match. And here we are, a year later, they get their title.
A rare a rare continuity with the storylines.
I'm sure it was indirect, but yeah, it worked out.
Give some credit.
All right. Good stip in place to 2 out of 3 falls. We haven't really had that on pay-per-view in a title match. Demolition's really twisted around since Mania. Full-blown heels. Crush and Smash are the choices. Vince figures that out. Kaladumbo, based on their heights, because they get the masks on when they come out. He pieces it together. We get deep into the Demolition song thanks to the Hearts promo. A lot of deep into the themes tonight. Big pop for the Hearts, who are clearly fired up for their shot. Piper talks about the challenges of being a 3-man unit, says it's a disadvantage for the champions. Brett and Smash open up with some feeling out. As that goes on, Crush comes in. Anvil beats him out of the ring, and the Hearts double team. Brett works over Smash, gets 2 on a roll-up, goes to the arm. Vince keeps saying it's hard to tell Demolition apart, especially when it's Axe and Smash. I mean, this... I get what they're trying to do. I really do. But, I mean, Demolition's been around now over 3 years. All of a sudden, it's hard to tell these guys apart. Like, if you were going to do this gimmick, have them, like, at least have the same hair and paint or something. Like, give us something that makes them look somewhat similar. Or they eventually do the mask stuff coming up. But it's not believable that all of a sudden you can't tell these guys apart. This doesn't make sense to me. I hate that piece of this. Anvil comes in and beats on and bites the arm. The Hearts quick tag, keep the pressure on. Smash breaks free, tags Crush, scoops and slams Brett but misses a knee drop. Brett slugs away. Crush catches him on a dive and spikes him to the mat. Crush eats a boot on a charge but stays on his feet. Brett sneaks behind him and gets 2 on a roll-up. Both men tag out. We reset with Anvil grabbing a side headlock, gets a big shoulder block. Smash battles back and takes Anvil down and tags Crush. Anvil hits a clothesline but Crush slugs him. Both tag out again. We reset with Brett and Smash. Brett cleans house on both Demolition, hammering away at them as Anvil regroups and the ref watches. Crush gets knocked outside and Brett hits a leg sweep for a close near fall. That got a pop. Brett hits a backbreaker and a middle rope elbow, but Crush breaks up the cover. Demolition loads up the decapitation device and they get the first fall. Surprisingly enough, the Hearts fall pretty, I don't say easily, but pretty quickly here to wrap that first fall up. Vince was not happy with all the double teams. Real hot first fall, though. I thought the finish was well done, despite the surprise. The champs start the second fall by hammering away on Brett, as Piper says Demolition has the psychological advantage. Crush hits a chokeslam and tags Smash, who hammers on Brett's chest. Crush works the neck as the crowd tries to rally Brett, who fights up and breaks the hold. Crush slugs him down, tags Smash. Brett takes Smash down and crawls, but Crush helps Smash stop him from tagging. But that just lasts a moment because Brett reaches up and Anvil gets a hot tag. He comes in completely on fire, cleans house, gets a pair of close near falls. The crowd is rocking here as the Hearts pick apart Smash, hit the battering ram to the corner, and then they hit Smash with the heart attack. But in comes Crush. He nails the referee for the DQ, and that ties up the match at 1. Crush knocks Brett to the floor. It starts the third fall. Anvil goes to check on him, but as that's happening, Axe runs out and hides under the ring. Why is Vince all of a sudden calling him the Axe? I don't know. It's like Vince just got his mind wiped on what Demolition was before this. Can't tell apart the Axe, the Smash. None of this makes sense. He says this isn't legal. Brett comes in with a sunset flip for 2. He lands some strikes and an atomic drop. Crush ties up the ref, but that allows some Hearts double teaming, including Anvil power slamming Brett onto Smash for 2 in a cool move. The ref gets turned around. Axe swaps with Smash and comes in and destroys Brett. Vince figures that jig out right away, and Axe is dominating. Piper is giving Vince shit, saying, when we started, Vince couldn't tell which was which, but now he knows. Vince says yes. He calls out the ref for being terrible. Axe shoots Bret Hart into the corner for 2 as things are getting out of control. Crush hits a tilt-a-whirl suplex for 2, and then, or tilt-a-whirl slam, I should say, for 2. Smash and Axe double team Bret on the floor. Axe goes to hide as Smash goes back in, and then the chaos really amps up as a Legion of Doom shows up, making their pay-per-view debut. Smash hits a hot shot on Brett. They pull Axe out to a massive pop, and then Hawk slugs Crush off the middle rope. Smash leaves to help Axe, and Anvil hits a slingshot shoulder block on Crush. Brett schoolboys him for the win, and a monster pop. A great, tremendous finish with pure chaos. Heat dripping all over this. Well-worked stuff all throughout, and it was time for Demolition to come off the mountain. This is really it for them. You could tell things are kind of messy with this 3-man thing. And after 3 years off as Kings, the Hearts are back on top of the tag division. So a really fun match, really hot. 3.5 stars for me, Ben. I really dig the moment too. The crowd loved that title change.
Yeah, 3.5 stars for me as well. This is, if you watch this match and didn't think Bret Hart was going to be a star, you're crazy, because he did everything that you'd see him do later on in his career when he was the champion. He's just next level talented compared to the rest of these guys. Not that the rest of the guys are bad, but he's just on another level. Demolition, yeah, the crowd went ape shit for this title switch. Absolutely apeshit. And they were dead for a lot of the matches, and now like the 2 title switches, and then a little bit later on, which we'll talk about, the crowd just completely lost it. Mostly because I don't think they expected it. So yeah, and I gave it 3.5. And then LOD coming out, there's a new program right there. The only thing that you could tell immediately that like they had the cool shoulder pads before, and now they got you could like tell they have styrofoam shoulder pads on.
Yes.
They're walking down the ring. It's like, oh man, like half of that mystique is gone now.
Yeah, I guess they weren't gonna have him come out there with actual spikes on WFTV at this point, sadly. Scott, what'd you think?
This is a fantastic match. Enjoy it very much. Love both teams. The overall, your overall times, the demolition pin was at 6:20, the DQ was at 10:35, and then Brett's roll up of Crush at 15:47. I had mentioned in our original written review, JR, which you could find on PlaceBNation.com, that I said, and I mentioned earlier today, on a kind of a minutia note of rules. We've seen for years. As a matter of fact, we saw an example of this on a Saturday Night's Main Event a few years ago when the Harts, coincidentally, were wrestling the British Bulldogs, or was this Bulldogs Dream Team? No, I can't remember. No, it was Bulldog. I think it was Bulldogs and
it was Bulldog
Hart Foundation.
Yeah.
Where a disqualification counts as a pinfall, but the minute that a DQ happens, the title part of the match is gone.
Mm-hmm.
Now the challengers could win the match, but now since one of their 2 victories is not a pinfall, the title part of it is gone. Except on this night where
yeah, but it's still this one example. I mean, they could explain that away by saying that Jack Tunney made a decree that was no longer a thing. They don't, because they don't give a shit. But yeah, I think that one's explainable.
I mean, I I thought it would have just been fine if Brett just got the pin. I don't know why they needed to do the DQ anyway. Like Crush is holding Earl up like a baby. It was like it was very awkward. The action is amazing. I mean, obviously, adding LOD to the mix, it just adds so much more to the match. And Demolition now kind of being taken to the side. And it's just really exciting. The Philly crowd loved it. Philly crowd's used to LOD, and they were big Demolition fans, and everybody loves the Hart Foundation. So the energy in this match is through the roof.
Still peeking through those bushes?
Right.
It was Harlem at the Ruckers. I saw you with your man, smiling.
I don't think any of those places are open right now. they're all shut down. But
Rucker.
Uncle Al's got nowhere to go.
That's for sure.
He's got nowhere to go to stalk that poor girl right now.
Scotty broke his cherry. This is one of the greatest pops of all time. It's got to be the Philly crowd was just tremendous. They were behind the Hearts all the way, and I loved all the reaction. Anvil had one of his best performances. Usually in the ring, obviously he's way behind Britt, but his facial expressions and the psychology just great. When after the pin, his gleeful look on his face, and then Brett too, like acting all stunned. And then when he realizes that they won and they got the belts, Brett just cracks this little smile. And then the music is delayed. The music hits, and then the crowd goes nuts. Maybe the delay is that they want people to think that maybe the belts weren't going to change because of. But that was probably just a small percentage of the audience that was a little too smart that would think that because of the DQ we didn't call it. But
John, you're right. Neidhart is so underrated as a hot tag guy.
Yeah,
I agree.
This is one of his best performances in Anvil.
Definitely.
All right, well, big moment in the books and big show so far. So lots going on. Sapphire's still on the loose. We're going to track her down, but we're going to go ahead and take a quick break here. When we come back, we'll hit the second half of the show. We'll talk some pop culture, and then we'll do some awards. So we'll all keep looking for Sapphire. We'll be right back after this.
Knowing
Hey, this is Headbanger Thrasher, and you're listening to what the fuck is it? The Place to Be podcast, so you better not miss it, because I'm on it.
All right, everyone, welcome back to episode 545 of the Reboot Podcast, looking at SummerSlam 1990. Before we get back to that, give you a quick trip around what's going on here. World of Place to Be Nation Wrestling feed. Body Press Your Luck, episode 5, dropped last week. 3-time defending champion Ryan Everett. I'm sorry, it's actually 4-time defending champion Ryan Everett takes on Derek Cornette and Michael Cook. So check that out. See if Ryan moves on and wins his 5th title, or if he gets taken down. Jenny the Gems, number 6. Scott, you joined Jenny, Matt, and Drew on the march to WrestleMania 9 preview show to set up the big event in Las Vegas. And Ben, you want to talk about the newest Row 1 Seat one?
Yeah, this is the one with Nick Iggy and it had Nick Iggy on, and he's a member of the Carnies. Great guy, great story for him, and just quality show. We had that's the one with Righteous Jesse on the beginning too, right?
Big Fitz.
Oh, Big Fitz. I'm sorry. Big Fitz. I've backed up so many shows. I have them all confused here. Big Fitz is actually a really interesting guy. He's a Iraq War vet and a 9/11 first responder in the Army, and he is now a wrestler, and he's in the Dallas Metroplex scene. And he's just a fascinating story, fascinating guy, and he tells the story to me a little bit and what it was like being a mile from the Pentagon at 9/11 and being a first responder on the scene there, what it was like fighting the Iraq War, and now he's a 6'10" wrestler in Dallas. So he's a really fascinating guy. And then obviously Nick Iggy, for people who don't know the Carnies, first of all, shame on you. They're an amazing tag team. But he's talks about his career and what he had going on. So fun show.
All right, you can check that out on this very feed. Be sure to listen each and every other week, I should say. Row 1, Seat 1. Brand new show called The Great Debate Wrestling. Host Andy Atherton, joined by Tim Capel, Matt Souza, and you, D'Amato, discussed a wide variety of topics and scenarios in the world of wrestling. So peep that. Also check out the PTB Pop feed. Great shows that include the Glenn Butler Podcast Hour Spectacular, the Earn Pop, Laugh-In Theater, DC4U, The Great Debate, and Marvel Age, plus so much more. Subscribe today. And while you're there, subscribe to a pair of tremendous podcast feeds beyond Place to Be Nation. First, we got Jennifer Smith's The Jenny Position, home of Geek and Sassy, Talking Pop, Freak Out Drive-In, Telling Stories, The Journey Through Infinity. Scott, that's me, you, Tim, and Jenny going through the MCU Marvel Cinematic Universe. Our most recent one was Captain America. You can check that out on that feed, as well as just freshly announced off the press, the Brother Sister Rewatch podcast now moving over to the Jenny Position feed as well. That is an awesome show that looks at The Office episodically, so be sure to check it out. Kevin and Mary are a barrel of laughs and information. Also, subscribe to the North-South Connection podcast feed mentioned earlier. Me and Chad Campbell directing you there. It's the new home of Wrestling Warzone, No Holds Barred, the Extreme 3-Way Dance, Jeff Learns Wrestling, and so much more. We have a lot of GWCW Pod Blast. John, Kirby Enthusiasm Pod Blast I mentioned earlier, that dropped on that feed earlier today. And we have a new Wrestling Warzone coming this week as well. We've also kicked off our 2020 Stretch Project. That is the aforementioned greatest WCW match ever. You have all year to do your research, promote your matches, and build your list, conversation, and it is a lot of conversation going on right now. Facebook.com/GWCW matches or at Pro Wrestling Only message board. And that project is off to a hot start. Lots of cool information sharing, a lot of match sharing. It seems to we've really captured the imagination with this one. Also want to
agree.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was going to say, I always like backing it up when you say that, because I mean, this is our 4th Stretch Project, and we did WWE Wrestler, we did WWE Tag Team, we did WWE Match, and we had some good discussion those 3, but this one, I mean, JR, it's been hot and heavy right from New Year's Day, so hop in, everybody. Please hop in, because the more the
I feel like people
it's
were
been a lot of fun.
Eager to relive WCW, because it's not something, it gets talked about a lot, but not as, in this setting as much, so I think people were excited to relive it. And again, like we've talked about, I think it's new to a lot of people that maybe haven't gone back and dug deep on it. And it's also a much more manageable volume than we had for the last one WWE matches. So
true.
Also, on social media, the Greatest Sports Logo of 2020 tournament is rolling, 4 matchups per day. So like the tournament page on Facebook or Twitter. You won't miss a single one. Be sure not to forget to check out PlayStation.com each and every day. We have new voices, fresh takes, bring you articles and topics from around the world of wrestling, sports, and pop culture, including Trent's SmackDown on Fox Report, The Week in WWE with John Crow, Paulie's perspective, and Ben's unpopular opinion, plus Glenn Butler's Wednesday walk around the web. Doing some shopping on Amazon, which you may be because you can't go to any stores, sure to click on the Amazon banner on the right side of PlayStation.com or go to PlayStation.com/Amazon to help us out. Now, when we last left you, Dusty Rhodes is searching frantically for Sapphire, searching all around the building and every nook and cranny, Daddy. Can't find her anywhere. Come back to me, baby. Come back to me is what he was saying. And ironically enough, coincidentally enough, that was the number 2 song in the nation this week by Janet Jackson. That brings us into Scott Criscuolo's Pop Culture Corner.
Thank you, JR. The reason we are doing the number 2 song this week is because the number 1 song was the same as we had on our last episode, and that is Mariah Carey's Vision of Love. So a couple of gorgeous divas at the top. Mariah number 1, Janet number 2. More Beautiful Women, If Wishes Came True by Sweet Sensation at number 3. Not Sweet Sapphire, but Sweet Sensation. Unskinny Bop by Poison. Song Sapphire danced to with that. No. Yes. Sapphire dancing to that. No. At number 5, Blaze of Glory from John Bon Jovi from the Young Guns 2 soundtrack. Release Me by Wilson Phillips at number 6. Do Me by Belle Biv DeVoe at number 7. Have You Seen Her? The remake by MC Hammer at number 8. Jerk Out by The Time, Moth Day, Jerking Out the Time.
It's a little different than Jamaican Jerk Off by Elton John.
Yes. Or as Piper was talking about, apparently. And number 10, Jamaican Jerk Off. And then at number 10, Epic by Faith No More. So there's your top 10 songs this week. In 1990, Mariah Carey still at number 1 with Vision of Love.
You don't think of that Faith No More song is like 1990. Like, I would think of it as either 80s or like mid-90s. Like 90s is such a weird time for that song. That doesn't compute for me.
90s a weird year period for a lot of stuff, movies, music. Very transitional. Speaking
I've also been known to do that, to do Blaze of Glory at karaoke, by the way.
Well, I would have loved to have seen it.
Next time we get together, get a few in me, and I might do Blaze of Glory.
The word karaoke just hurts my brain. It really does. Damn it. But that's a great call, Ben. Tremendous karaoke song there. Going to the movies, some movies that have come out over the past couple weeks since we last chatted. Men at Work, right? Wasn't that the brothers Sheen? Wasn't that Charlie and Emilio? I think that came out. But the most popular movie at this point made $32 million. Darkman, the first of 3 from that trilogy. So there you go. Summer of 1990. Not as good as summer of 89. That was a great year for movies. Summer of 90 was a little rough. Let's go to the baseball diamond and see how teams are looking. It was a Monday, so only 6 games on tap. The Yankees went into Baltimore and shut out the Orioles 4-0. Andy Hawkins got the win. Ben McDonald, remember him? Supposed to be
number 1 overall pick.
Exactly. From LSU. Took the loss. Dave Righetti is 28th save. Red Sox with a 12-4 win over the Indians in Cleveland. Mike Boddicker, speaking of ex-Orioles, with the win. The Mets, Mr. D'Amato, did not play. Your standings to this point, Red Sox are leading the AL East by 5 games over Toronto. Your defending world champion A's up by 5.5 on the White Sox and 13.5 on Texas. The Pirates lead the Mets by 3 in the NL East, and Cincinnati with a 6.5 game lead over the Dodgers in the National League West.
Winston definitely owns a Boddicker jersey. It just depends on if it's a Red Sox and Orioles one, but he's got one. He's definitely got one.
It's like one of those halfsies you see, like somebody like a half Orioles, half Oreo socks. Oh God. And we end the Pop Culture Corner on a sad note. It was on this day in 1990 in East Troy, Wisconsin, after a jazz festival or a rock festival. Stevie Ray Vaughan, arguably one of the greatest blues guitarists. I mean, fuck it, one of the greatest guitarists of all time, died in a helicopter crash at the way, way too early age of 35. Again, Texas flood, couldn't stand the weather. He played at Carnegie Hall in the mid '80s, Soul to Soul. He had his drug issues, but I mean, just a tremendous player. I mean, that guy could play like there was no tomorrow. His brother was in Double Trouble, and then his brother Jimmy would play in the Fabulous Thunderbirds. So just to give you a background, at 1:50 a.m., so it was earlier that morning, in the morning on August 27th, Vaughn and members of Eric Clapton's touring entourage played an all-star encore jam session at Alpine Valley Music Theater in Alpine Valley Resort in East Troy, Wisconsin. They left from Midway International Airport in Chicago on a Bell 206B helicopter, the most common way for acts to enter and exit the venue, as there's only one road in and out heavily used by fans. The helicopter crashed into a nearby ski hill shortly after takeoff. The investigation determined that the aircraft departed in foggy conditions with visibility reportedly under 2 miles. The NTSB said that the third helicopter was departing. It remained at a lower altitude, and the helicopter crashed on hilly terrain about 3/5 of a mile from the takeoff.
Man, that all sounds like way too sadly similar to Kobe. I mean, it's like the same fucking story.
Yep.
It sounds almost exactly like Kobe. And I remember this, Johnny. I don't know if you do or not, but I remember some early reports saying that Clapton was on the chopper too. Thank God he was not. But if that was the case, fuck, that's like Buddy Holly and Richie Valens all over again. That would have been the day the music died, the sequel, if you had two of the greatest guitarists of all time dying in the same accident. His funeral would be later that week in Dallas. His wooden casket quickly became adorned with bouquets of flowers. 3,000 mourners. Among those at the public ceremony, Jeff Healey, Charlie Sexton, ZZ Top, Colin James, Stevie Wonder, Bonnie Raitt, and Buddy Guy, and some of the other great musicians of the day. So it was on this day in 1990 that we lost one of the greatest of all time, Stevie Ray Vaughan. And that is our Pop Culture Corner. Back to Philadelphia, Jay.
Back to Philadelphia we go for a WrestleMania 7 promo, setting us up to be in the LA Coliseum in Los Angeles in March.
How'd that go?
We'll see. Mean Gene is backstage. Says this is a political year, and tonight is a tough year for incumbents. Legion of Doom walk in. They say they hope Demolition's mad because they want them. They've been calling them out. Pretty vintage LOD promo. The Hearts come in to celebrate. They say they won't hide. They'll take on anyone, anywhere, no matter what the odds are. Hawk says LOD fits in however they want. Demolition can drink their woes away. Hawk strokes Anvil's goatee in a fun moment to close this out in a pretty good promo. Mooney is backstage outside Demolition's locker room, and all you hear is them screaming behind the doors with threats being shouted in the direction of Legion of Doom, not the Heart, says Sean. Mooney tries to open the door, and it gets slammed in his face right away. Jean is then with Sensational Sherry, who's celebrating her win. She said it's so good that she intimidated Sapphire to not even show up. That means she can gloat about it. Jean says something peculiar is going on with Sapphire, who's vanished. Sherry compares it to a UFO with all the sightings today and says maybe she's not so dumb after all. She didn't show up for that beating. She also heard rumors that would make her the smartest person at ODF and laughs. Sherry says if she is missing, but she didn't say she was a person. Pretty nasty stuff there. But I like, there's always been this ongoing hint of a partnership and backstage relationship with Macho Man and Ted DiBiase. And Sherry's hinting here just continues to play into that. That's been something that's been running, kind of a running storyline for like a year now, that they have some sort of relationship. We get a 5-minute intermission. The Mean Gene runs down the rest of the card that lies ahead. We then see footage of someone peeking in on Bad News Brown's cage, where we see a fake sewer rat against the cage wall, which I thought was weird that they kind of exposed. Were they trying to say it was real, or were they trying to expose that it was fake? It was a real odd thing, and I'm pretty sure that was a Coliseum video piece. I don't think they showed that on the pay-per-view. But I don't know. That whole thing was odd.
Yeah, it did seem out of place. Yeah. It did seem out of place, and I wasn't sure where they were going with that. Actually, I thought maybe they were trying to expose it as fake.
Yeah, I think I don't know. I think they tacked it on later at the video, so I guess they didn't care.
Yeah,
they were exposing it.
Yeah.
A lesson they wouldn't learn later, 30 years later, with Eric Rowan.
Right, in his cage.
Yeah. PETA was probably on their case, so they had to...
That's true. You can't have a snake and a rat. We also do get footage of Damien in the shower. Gene is then joined by the big boss man. He's got 2 jobs tonight. He promises to uphold the law in his next match. He's been dealing with snakes and sewer dwellers his whole life. He'll ensure justice prevails. Sean Mooney's then with Jim Duggan and Nikolai Volkov. They're all smiles. Duggan says a few weeks ago he presented Nikolai with the flag. He's proud to have him as a friend, and tonight he's proud to have him as a partner. Nikolai says Duggan is his idol. Mooney talks up Mr. Fuji. Nikolai says forget the Orient Express because they are the American Express. Gene is in with Earthquake, Dino Bravo, and Jimmy Hart. Earthquake says there'll be a disaster tonight, just like the last time they went face-to-face. We get clips of the original beatdown as well as the attack on Tugboat. Quake says Tugboat rallied the Maniacs to make Hogan come back. Says Hogan makes the biggest mistake of his life tonight when he comes back too soon. There'll be 2 stretchers, one for Hogan, one for Bossman. Bravo says he'll hand Bossman and anyone else stupid enough to get involved as well. Jimmy guarantees your money's worth tonight. Promises there'll be 2 stretchers. Quake says to call the Red Cross and get prepped because you can predict this quake and Hogan will crumble for good. And then our final promo here with Sean Mooney talking to Jake Roberts. He says Bad News Brown's afraid of snakes. And he asks Jake if he's afraid of rats. Jake says him and Damien have a lot in common, but what does it say about Bad News that he hangs with rats? Jake isn't afraid because Damien's hungry. He wants to know how hungry Bad News Brown is because that's what's coming to him, and that separates a man from him like a mouse, like Bad News Brown. Damien was all wrapped on Jake's neck the whole time, which was kind of odd. Basically like a turtleneck sweater or something.
It's like flicking on his face.
Oh, yeah, right at the end.
Would have freaked me out so bad.
Yeah, right at the end. The perfect twirl in the friggin' tail right in Jake's face. Perfect.
Any other comments on any of those promos before we get to the matches from you guys?
Just Quake, his bouncing was perfectly rhythmic. Just his bouncing back and forth. And then, of course, Bravo has to ruin it by letting everybody know he's Canadian with the Earthquake.
Earthquake.
Yeah, the extra H.
Bravo had to ruin everything by actually being there.
That's true.
No, Earthquake's awesome. I like the taped. I like how he has this his wrist taped now. He's like he's in for a fight. I dug the Quake promo. He's been tremendous this entire year. Relatively young, and here he is now taking on arguably the biggest guy in the world right now. So, he's definitely settled in quite nicely in his role. I agree.
And the Sherry promo, aside from the not so latent racism, this is prime Sherry. This is Sherry at her most Sherry-est.
Oh, yeah. She is feeling it for sure. Cat or no cat? All right. Back to the ring as Jake the Snake Roberts takes on Bad News Brown. Roddy Piper says Jake looks like something from Star Trek with that snake raptor on him. We get a healthy amount of boos from Bad News Brown and a big pop for Jake as he trucks out for this grudge match that's been building throughout the summer. Vince wonders if Damien will eat the rats tonight. Big Boss Man comes out, and he is a guest referee. It's kind of odd that he gets the last entrance, but he gets a nice warm reception. Bad News attacks Jake before Boss Man even gets to the ring. Jake fends him off and almost hits a DDT, but Brown dodges and bails. Piper gives Bad News some shit as he takes on some strikes and then works the back before dropping a leg for 2. Bad News already gets in Boss Man's face, allowing Jake to almost hit the DDT again. Things spill outside as Piper says maybe the rats got Sapphire. Bad News jams a chair to Jake's gut, but Boss Man just reprimands him. Bad News shoves Jake back inside, shoots him hard to the corner, and slugs away. Piper talks about Bad News stink as he shoots Jake hard to the corner, but Jake flips him off as he crumbles to the mat. Bad News hammers away slowly, hits a hard clothesline. Bad News whiffs on a punch off the middle rope, and Jake comes back with a knee lift and a sharp punch before hitting the short arm clothesline. Jake is very red here. He looks very sunburned. Jake loads up a DDT, but Bad News blocks it with a backdrop and kicks away. Piper says Bad News had his head oiled and has it oiled enough to have Arabs chasing him. It's pretty much ridiculous again. Bad News hits Jake with the chair. Now Boss Man calls for the DQ. Boss Man checks on Jake as Bad News goes for the sack. Bad News tries to leg drop the sack, but Boss Man makes a save. Bad News nails Boss Man from behind. Jake comes in and chucks Damien on Bad News to a pop. Bad News bolts as Jake and Boss Man stand tall. Fine brawl, some good heat, starting to tell a decent story, but the finish was pretty stupid, anticlimactic. Bad News again escapes without jobbing, and Jake picks up a cheap win, and Boss Man gets his gimmick over. So, Scott, I just want a 1.5 on this. Another Jake, another Bad News feud for both of them that has a kind of a sad, sorry payoff in the big spot. This one just never got going.
No, it didn't. I actually just gave it a star. And we were talking about short matches. Well, this one was only 4:45, and thank God, because if it kept going at this pace that long, it would have been arguably one of the worst pay-per-view matches of all time. Just no flow here. As great at times as Jake's feuds are psychologically, we've always seen that they don't deliver in the ring, and that sucks. Because Jake's a great worker. Mm-hmm. And I think Bad News is a pretty good worker. Yeah. But you just can never get it, they never can turn it over and and put on the match on a big stage that you need to do. And it's sad because Jake's that good. Only a star for me, Ben. Just another disappointment on a big stage for Jake. It's tough.
I gave it a 1.5. I think Jake tried. I think Bad News might have been the most boring WWF era worker that there might have been. Honestly, there's been revisionist history on him, and I know people have tried to get me to look at, he's probably stiffing people, et cetera, et cetera. That's nice, but he was boring our asses off in the meantime. And it just. Jake tried in this match. He really did. He played all the hits, but he just he couldn't get anything out of Bad News. Also, is this the biggest that Damien had ever been? That steak was huge.
Yeah, he was pretty plump.
It's the steroids.
Yeah, he took some too.
Damien wasn't tested. Yeah. This was rough though. 1 star, and it's disappointing because. But it continues with Bad News. They're disappointed at WrestleMania with Piper, and I wonder if it was just a booking issue because I don't think we see him anymore. But you guys reviewed a better match with a better finish at MSG. So
yeah,
this just shows that at the time they're having like that internal struggle whether to give the good payoff at the house show or at the pay-per-view. They maybe they were stuck in their heads whether the feud's going to continue, but we saw a much better finish and a much better match at your house show at MSG. So they would have been better off doing it here for the pay-per-view, and especially because we don't see Bad News too much anymore after this, if at all.
No, we don't actually. So we'll talk about it in a minute. Ben, what are your thoughts on the match?
1.5, and that's even being nice. With Jake just trying real hard and Bad News being Bad News.
Mm-hmm. All right. Was that everyone? I'm sorry, Scott. Did you go? Did I go out of order?
No, I started.
No, we're good.
Okay,
we're good.
So this is Bad News. I'm used to the 4-man. I'm used to the easy 3. So this is Bad News. This is Bad News. I don't know if it's definitely his last appearance. He gets subbed a ton right after this. Graham has him in 2 matches, like within the substitutions, but I wonder if that's just like false results from house shows, because I don't see why he'd work 2 random ones amidst all the subs. Akeem fills in for him a lot against Jake around the horn. All intents and purposes, though, this is pretty much it for him. We're not going to see him again. So he came in '88. It's been quite the interesting run. Like we've heard here tonight, didn't always come to the plate with. Big time matches when it mattered. Awkward guy, disappointing at times, and a guy that, in many ways, gimmick was ahead of the time, but match wise, never really got it going. Had some cool moments, some memorable moments. He would leave after he claimed that Vince failed to live up to his promise to make him the company's first black champion. I mean, fine, but I don't get realistically if you're him when you can look at his run in 80, 89, 90 when he thought he had a chance to actually be world champion. I'm not sure what Vince had promised him. He'd worked for several indies after this. He worked for the Shoot promotion in Japan, UWFI, and retired in 1999 due to knee damage. Worked some independent shows from there and had a heart attack in 2007 in Calgary. So any thoughts, Ben, on the career of Bad News or anything you want to mention before we move on?
I think he was a better character than he was a wrestler. He was a really good character ahead of his time. But again, like you guys said, it never really matched up in the ring, at least in WWF.
Scott?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, John, go ahead. All right, you guys are flowing. You don't even need me to direct.
Really good on promos. I loved his Beer Belly Sharecroppers when he called the fans out, and also I think the first guy to get physical with Jack Tunney, which has got to score him some points there. That was they gave him a good shot, good run with Macho Man. He got a shot, but I definitely didn't see him as world championship material. Good on promos, in the ring not so much.
I remember seeing a lot of him in Florida, feuding with Luger a few years earlier. And when you found out that he, worked in the dungeon, you thought, wow, this guy's amazing. And then by the time he got here, it was pretty much just punchy, kicky kind of stuff. And that's unfortunate because he seemed like he was a better worker than that. So I don't know. It's untapped potential. Could have got a lot more out of him than we ended up getting. That's sad. This match was a synopsis of that, just an encapsulation of a guy who you thought had a lot of talent.
I think he does. It's just not
back in the days when he was accusing Jack Tunney of getting blowjobs from Elizabeth, so Savage could keep his title.
Favors.
Favors.
Yeah.
But, it's a shame.
Yeah, I don't know what else they could have done with him. I think his time was just up. Like, if you look at the landscape, I'm not sure where else he goes in this. Of course, there is that promotional photo, right, for Survivor Series that maybe they were planning on keeping him for a little bit. What team was he originally on? Was it Slaughters, I think? Was that where he was slotted in? Or was it DiBiase? That lost Survivor Series 90 picture?
I think it was DiBiase's.
Well, they knew better because he was the worst Survivor Series tag team you could ever
They
have.
dumped him.
Yeah,
he might have been in the mystery man slot. Yeah, he was. I found the picture now.
But that was a good gimmick for him, walking out on his team every year.
Right. I wonder if he was always playing on that spot and they came up with the mystery idea after, or
he probably left right around that time.
Did they know he was never going to really be there, and they just planned that they knew he'd walk out on the team before that and then have the mystery punter? I don't know. Interesting. Anyway, that's it for bad news. He gone. Another WrestleMania 7 promo. Then Gene is with Demolition. They're pissed. They said the Hart Foundation cheated, didn't play fair. Instead, the two of them, there were four. Demolition will come for them, get their belts back after they get revenge on Legion of Doom. Those imposters will regret walking in their shadows. When they finish with LOD, Hawk will be hawking hot dogs, and Animal will be neutered. Very delusional heel promo. Well delivered by Demolition. That brings us to the Brother Love show. As Brother Love hops in the ring for a special interview segment, he goes on a rant about children being told what to do because they don't know any better. Even as grown-ups, they still need someone to tell them what to do because they're soft and weak. And his guest is the guy to tell people what to do. And out comes Drill Sergeant Slaughter. Good heat for the returning Sarge here. Of course, we hadn't seen him since, I believe, 1984 is when he left the WWF.
Yeah.
One of the biggest stars, obviously, of that time period was a heel, then a face, has some iconic matches with Bob Backlund and the Iron Sheik. Had the falling out with Vince after the argument about the G.I. Joe stuff, went to the AWA. Had a big push there, defeated Larry Zbyszko, won the AWA America's Heavyweight title. Had the short run in the Pro Wrestling USA promotion, and then just kind of bounced around back to AWA. After WrestleMania 6, Slaughter sent a letter to Vince McMahon saying he loved the program. He was interested in returning. McMahon told Slaughter that he wanted him to be a heel, and his new gimmick would be that Slaughter turned on the U.S. due to acceptance of the Russian Nikolai Volkov. Slaughter said he found it difficult to do these anti-American promos. But not only is he anti-American and kind of turning on his country being soft, we'll see the clear twist that comes in the weeks ahead. So, out comes Slaughter. And good heat. Vince talks up his background as he struts out. Sarge says he's only here for two reasons tonight. The first is to present a prestigious award. He searched the whole country for a man deserving the award, but saw America had become weak and soft. He then looked to the WWF and found someone worth wearing the Sergeant Slaughter Great American Award, and that person is Brother Love. Brother Love has a great reaction here. Vince makes sure he knows that this was known beforehand, even though Brother Love acts like it's a surprise. Kind of like Vince back in that day when he got that award at MSG. They gave himself, basically. Acted all surprised. Love shits on Volkov's smaller medal, says this is a real medal. Can't believe America has opened its arms to this pinko commie, Nikolai Volkov. Sarge declares war on Volkov, says America is too chicken to declare war, but he isn't because he has the courage. calls Nikolai Pinko, commie, maggot, scum, puke, and America has allowed this guy into their hearts and arms, but that won't help him. Nikolai is weak and soft like America. If war broke out tomorrow in the Middle East, the General Saddam Hussein would kick their butts, just like he'll kick Nikolai's butt. Solid promo, to the point, even with all the absurdity. It didn't overstay its welcome, and starts to lay the tones. I don't know if they already knew where they were headed with this. He does mention Saddam Hussein here, or if it was just kind of a one-off because they were talking about America not being prepared. Johnny, what did you think of this whole deal?
Well, they're kind of easing their way into it. They didn't have him, mention Hulk or go heavy with the Iraq stuff. So a little tepid just to mention that Nikolai, who's not exactly one of the top faces to go after. So it's a little underwhelming at this stage.
Ben?
Actually, he called him Saddam Hussein, which I think spoke to how early we were in the whole war thing with Iraq.
Yes.
Because that guy's name was rolling off the tongue of everybody within a month or two. I also think that the award he gave to Brother Love is basically the faceplate off a U.S. title. It was like Flavor Flav sized. It was amazing.
It was like a giant clock.
Yeah, it was huge. And then the crowd had no idea what to do with this until the end when he started talking about Iraq and stuff like that. They were kind of sitting on their hands for a good chunk of this.
Scott?
It was really good. Shocking. And almost a little unnerving. I mean, it's one thing to be just a badass Marine heel like in the early 80s, but to just totally turn on the country, as we will discuss, JR, for the future shows, that almost was a bad decision off camera, but a great decision on camera. And a good promo that really hammered home the fact that this guy is not our friend anymore, not our hero. Not on G.I. Joe with Duke and the gang.
Were you guys okay with this as a spot on SummerSlam? Or did you? I mean, I think it's a pretty good place to reintroduce Sarge, to give him a long form segment. And it's clear that the roster is so thin. I mean, we've talked about it at this point. This card does not go long. There's a lot of matches. They're short because of, I think, the general talent base that they have right now. So I don't have an issue with them jamming this in here.
Especially where you're going with Sarge. If you have an idea of where you're going, this is, you got to put him in a prime spot on SummerSlam because, 6-9 months later or whatever, he's going to be headlining WrestleMania.
Yep. If that was planned, we don't know, but they obviously had some plans for him. Yeah. John, you good with it here?
Yeah, and with anything still with Blubber Love is going to get added heat. So.
Yeah, for sure. And we saw this 2 years ago. He had the Brother Love show with Duggan, SummerSlam 88, so... a lot of parallels so far, those two shows.
I also couldn't look at Sarge without thinking Stolen Valor.
Oh, boy.
That's the least of our worries these days, sadly.
This is true.
Mooney is with Orient Express and Mr. Fuji. Fuji says the superpowers come together against the honorable Japanese know-how. They will hit Duggan so hard he'll end up with 2 cross eyes. They'll hit Nikolai so hard he'll have a red mark on his head like Gorbachev. This guy's nailed there. It's like they had a couple bits and they had like 30 seconds to work them in and they flood it. Mooney gets some hot news, though. He throws it to Gene. Gene's in the hallway, and we see Sapphire barrel by him and duck into a locker room. He says they can all breathe a sigh of relief. Sapphire's safe. But he wonders about Sherry's comments earlier before we wrap up. Brings us to our next match. Tag team action is Hacksaw Jim Duggan teams with Nikolai Volkov against the Orient Express. Big tag match here as the Orient Express and Fuji hit the ring. Piper and Vince talk Sapphire until Duggan and Nikolai hit the ring to Stars and Stripes Forever. Piper doesn't trust Nikolai at all. Fink says Duggan and Nikolai will pay tribute to Philly's own Kate Smith. Then we get singing of God Bless America terribly. I don't know how much of a tribute that was. In fact, the crowd even boos until it ends when they cheer. Duggan asks God to bless the troops, and the Orient Express jump them to get us going. Duggan and Volkov take right over clean house as the crowd fires up a USA chant. We reset with Nikolai and Tanaka. Nikolai dominates that until Sato nails him from behind. Orient Express double team. Fuji lands a cane shot as Duggan's all tied up with the ref. Sato lands a sidekick, tags Tanaka, who whiffs on a splash. Duggan gets the tag. He batters Tanaka and Sato, cutting them down with a double clothesline, slugging away. Piper makes a dig at his tongue hanging out for balance as all four start brawling. Duggan hits a 3-point stance on Tanaka, covers for the win. And that's that. Nothing match, but the heat was pretty insane for this. The crowd was all amped up for Duggan. Basically a Cindy semi-squash, waste of Orient Express. Nikolai's going nowhere fast. they're trying, but it's not happening. But for now, the fans are into it. Half a star, Scott.
Yeah, I mean, this wasn't really much. It was a chance to show off Nikolai as a baby face. Your match time is 3:21. I mean, these are just express line. I mean, for a show that was as long as it was, it is a really weird show. For a show as long as it was, with a ton of action, or at least a ton of build and some big time feuds and big time storylines. The only reason that the tag match was 15:47 is because it had 3 falls in it. Otherwise, everything's been a sprint. But then again, do you really want to see Duggan and Nikolai longer than 3 minutes together? Probably not. But this was pretty much just to kind of get Nikolai over as this new baby face, and Duggan's, Duggan looking, I mean, really, really tan. You're talking about, he looked like a shoe. That's how tan Duggan was. Usually he's not that tan. He looked like a fucking slipper. Otherwise, Johnny, not much here. Sato looked a little out of shape, a little portly. But that's right. Upgrade comes soon for that team too, Johnny.
Yeah, short and not so sweet. 1.5. The highlight was the singing "God Bless America" when Piper said it sounded like dinner was late at the dog pound, and Vince knew. Vince knew it was so bad he didn't even say anything. He didn't even try to defend those two. And just sad. This Nikolai face turn is a bomb. When you make Duggan look good in the ring, you got problems. Just real slow and off timing, and he made Duggan look tremendous. That's the only thing that saved this was the Duggan still got the crowd behind him, so he's going to save anything that he's in.
Yeah, they were super hot for this. I mean, just red hot.
Yeah.
It was good to keep it short too.
I gave it half a star too.
Yeah, the 3 minutes kept the crowd invested the whole time. Like, you don't want more than that with these guys in there.
Yeah.
I gave it a 4 star only because Pat Tanaka is a hell of a bumper.
He is. Yeah, Sensei Patrick Tanaka,
that dude just flew around.
Yes. Sensei Patrick. All right. Any final thoughts there, Ben? Anything else?
No, just Nikolai Volkov's whiteness compared to Hacksaw Jim Duggan's tan was just this amazing contrast.
It is quite the offset, for sure. Mean Gene's with Dusty's banging on Sapphire's door. She won't open. Gene says he has been vigilantly standing by. Dusty's worried sick over this. He needs her at ringside. Something's going down. He has to go to his match, but he'll return to deal with this as soon as it ends. Just amazing stuff. This is the forgotten Dusty promo and all this, which is equally as intense. Sean Mooney's on a ladder talking to Savage, who's on a sedan. Savage says the rumors must be true. Sapphire doesn't want to associate with a commoner for all of her life. Philly's own Benjamin Franklin must be turning in his grave, thinking of Dusty as the American dream. They head out, and Sean Mooney teeters around. Even if this show's lacking in the ring, it has been top-notch from a character work point of view. Like, everyone has nailed their promos, their segments, right down to Mooney and Mean Gene. Like, everything is just clicking on that regard. Once we get in the ring, it's a little bit lacking. But, again, they're keeping everything short. So here we go, back to the ring for this giant blow-off of this big feud that's been raging all year. Dusty Rhodes taking on the Macho King Randy Savage. Dusty's out solo, looks pensive as he's waiting, leaning on the ropes. Savage gets carried out in a sedan as Sherry leads the way. Piper says maybe Sapphire got tired of pulling logs out of the toilet and wearing polka dots. It's not romantic. Before we start, Ted DiBiase and Virgil show up on a podium. They say everybody's got a price, even the nickel and dime commoners in the crowd and Dusty Rhodes. His money can buy anything, and tonight it bought Dusty's humiliation, and out comes his brand new purchase. That is right, it is Sweet Sapphire. Sapphire's out in her mink coat and her jewels as Ted is yucking it up. Saff shows off her bag full of cash, and Ted runs down all the gifts he bought her over these past weeks. Rhodes is distraught as Ted tells him not to be upset. Anyone would have done what she did. Dusty heads down the aisle, but Savage jumps him from behind and beats on him, shoves Dusty back inside, hits a top rope axe handle as Piper says Dusty may be rusty with the women. Sapphire, sure. I like how this has become like a sexual thing with Dusty and Sapphire. I don't know if Piper's the only one doing that or what. I don't remember that being a thing that they were banging, but Piper seems to think so. Sherry chokes away, and Savage does too. Piper says Saff is done delivering pizzas and living with common man. Savage keeps on offense, but Dusty eventually fires up with a flurry and chucks Savage across the ring. Dusty seems off kilter as he lands some elbows and dropkicks Savage to the floor. Dusty hops out. Savage puts Sherry in front of him. Savage grabs the purse as Dusty grabs Sherry. Savage hits him with the purse and covers to the win. God, what a weak finish to a great feud. I get that they're kicking off Dusty and DiBiase, but they really make Dusty look like a dink here. And it continues the story of that DiBiase-Savage relationship we mentioned earlier. Savage dominates this, hopefully relaunches him to something better. Poor Dusty's just a mess. Piper says Savage has no trouble keeping his women. So I want a star. Again, this feud has been so good that I kind of wish it ended at WrestleMania and that Dusty fought someone else here to get to this. Like, I wish the Savage stuff was done because it just feels like a weird addendum to that feud. It should have been put to bed at Mania, move both guys on to something else, have Dusty face whoever, someone else here instead, and pull the same thing off. I guess it's kind of weird that DiBiase wasn't on the card, but we see why. He plays a big role. It felt a little bit much heavy-handed to make this awful night for Dusty. Maybe that's more with hindsight because we know what comes from here. If this sets up like a huge redemption story for Dusty, that's one thing, but maybe that clouds how this plays out. But again, 1 star. We'll talk about what happens after this in a moment. Johnny, what did you think of this whole fiasco?
Yeah, 1 star too. And the saddest part too is how you're downplaying Macho Man of all people, one of the greatest of all time, and he's like a fourth banana compared to what's going on with DiBiase and Sapphire and Dusty. So you really downplay Macho, which is a tragedy here. But it was good to see Sapphire come out with a hot pink dress, and she's carrying like millions of dollar bills in a $5 WWF bag. It looked like the same. It looked like the same one that Bobby grabbed from Andre at WrestleMania 1. Probably that bag was lying around backstage with the money still in it. And Piper's one good line about Dusty getting a little rusty. That's about it.
The one thing I do wish, if there was one match we could have had Dusty back for in this, Jesse back for in the show, this would have been it, because he just would have buried the fuck out of Dusty. I mean, Piper kind of did, but Jesse really would have murdered him throughout this whole match. Ben, what'd you think?
I gave it a 1.5 stars. It could have been so much more. I mean, you got two absolute icons of wrestling going against each other, and you have this kind of wet fart of a match. One thing that I did notice, though, Sapphire's Jerry curl was amazing.
She had all that extra money she's got to spend on products.
Well going, man. Let your soul blow.
She doesn't get worst hair tonight. That's good. She's. 2:14 your match time. Probably the shortest Savage match ever. Yeah. I also gave it a star. You made a point, JR. I don't remember when this was. I don't know if it was on one of our shows or if it was in a chat or something where you're like, 2 grown men, Dusty and Ted DiBiase, and here they are fighting over Sapphire.
Well, the problem is, though, we don't really ever get clarification on what Sapphire's role is in all this. Like why? I know Dusty cares about her, but like this seems like a lot for. It's not really his woman. Like they're trying to redo like the baby doll. I don't know. The whole thing is odd. Like. And it gets better once we get Dusty's family involved. That makes more sense. And I get him buying his manager, but I guess to me, the lack of knowing the relationship between these two has always added a little cloudiness to what this is. Like, why is he really that upset? Like, what was she to him? Like, was she his caretaker? Like, give me something so we understand why he's so distraught over this, you know?
And she's basically done after this, right? She has a couple more TV appearances, but for all intents and purposes, they just use her up at this point.
Yeah, I think she comes out and like manages DiBiase for a couple matches, and maybe does like an interview segment or two. Because she definitely, I remember her carrying around the DiBiase wrestling buddy, like that becomes her thing. But it's not long, and then they say like, I feel like I think there's something in the magazine that they read her off with. They say kind of like that she's going to retire with all her money or something. It's something like that. Basically, she's going to live off the money.
I'm not sure, but this is rough, and I don't know where we're kind of going with it. It feels very fractured, very splintered. What is Savage's role? Is he just here to just clean up the, pick the bones, I guess, the emotional bones of Dusty? Were they trying to like capture what would have been a pretty good NWA type storyline, and it just didn't really deliver here because that's not their kind of thing? You know what I mean? Like this would have probably been better in Crockett. because it's very.
No, I think it's a thing. I just think the problem is we don't know if DiBiase buys his woman, like that's hot. That's like a big angle, and it gets hot too with when Dusty's family gets involved, in a couple of months. But right now, again, I think it just comes down to like why does he care? I guess his friend is turning on him, whatever, but it just doesn't. Like, why is DiBiase doing this? I don't know. Like, the motive isn't 100% clear, other than he's just trying to fuck with Dusty.
That's got to be all it is. Yeah,
I mean, it definitely is what it is. But I don't know. I thought it just would have meant more if we knew more about what Dusty and Sapphire had going on, I guess.
Yeah.
And I don't want to be in a world where they're banging. I'm just saying, like it would have helped the story.
Oof. Oof.
But yeah, poor Dust. But Sean Mooney's backstage, says Ted's in his private suite and his limo's in the driveway, so he thinks they'll be out soon. And indeed, out come Virgil, DiBiase, and Sapphire. They blow off Mooney. Ted eventually tells him to look and learn. Everything has a price. Dusty runs to the back and gets there just as the limo's pulling away. Dusty slams on the roof and wails as Mooney says, if only he got here sooner. Like, what a dick. He calls Dusty distressed. Piper asks what Dusty was going to do, lay in front of the car. So everyone's just like pissing all over Dusty. Poor Dusty, just having a rough night. And I keep trying to figure out like what else they could have done with this card, like what I mentioned earlier, and how they could use Savage, and everything's just kind of disjointed. Like you had Bossman and DiBiase who are feuding all summer, and we don't get the blow off here, which I get because I don't think they wanted DiBiase in a match, and then doing this. So fine. I don't know who else Rhodes could have fought because the roster is such a mess, and who else Savage could have fought. Like I guess they had to keep it going to face each other. Like there's really nowhere else for them to go. Unless you do something weird like Savage Tito. I mean, like, there's nowhere else. I don't know where else to go with it, so I guess that's it. I guess you could have done Dusty Barbarian or something. Like, if you want to have a random heavy to take him out and maybe Savage just as a promo. Like, if he's only going to wrestle 2 minutes anyway. But yeah. I guess for selling the card, Savage Dusty's a name match. That's all I can think of. I don't know. Whatever. Is what it is. All right, any final thoughts on that before we move on?
Nope.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
No, I think we've covered it pretty good.
Me and James,
I think that those people who said that Dusty was buried in the WWF need to watch this show and see that he got like 4 promos and like 20 minutes screen time. And like, I mean, this guy was all over the show.
I think it's probably the back end, the final months I think of, because this is definitely the fulcrum moment for Dusty's run. Like he peaks at WrestleMania, and this is kind of the pivot. And from here, he gets a lot of time, but he's not presented as a top guy at all. Like his run as like an upper tier guy is SummerSlam 89 to SummerSlam 90. Like he gets that 1 year. These final months are definitely him just kind of riding up the string.
Yeah.
All right, Gene's with Hulk Hogan and Big Boss Man. Hogan remembers that splash and Earthquake. Bravo and Hart laughing at him as he just rolled out to the tears of the Hulksters. He remembers all of the letters and cards and the prayers that healed him, as well as Tugboat leading the charge. The memories are fresh, and after they took out Tugboat, they're dedicating the match to him, and Boss Man is on his side. Boss Man issues a warning, says their only rights are for justice, and with Judge Hogan presiding, Hogan says he'll chop down the cherry tree, and Earthquake says and he never tells a lie. He says Thomas, Big Boss Man Jefferson, and Hulk, George Washington Hogan. He works that in. Very good promo, to the point, threaded into the Philadelphia history stuff. Usual pun-filled Hogan promo from this time.
Yeah, I love how he dedicates the match to the Tugster. I think that's one of our boy Trent's nicknames. The Tugster.
All right. We go to the ring. It is time for part 1 of the big double main event as Hulk Hogan makes his return. The first time since April to take on Earthquake in this big grudge match. Good heel entrance, lots of hype and heat. Quake feels like a very big bad for this. Good pop for Boss Man, but a massive one for Hogan, who still has it. His entrance is great. The crowd loves the posing. Good spot for Boss Man, elevated to this new face roll to the upper tier. Hogan has an odd little bob haircut here, which was weird. And I can't even say it was for the movie, because I think in Suburban Commando his hair's long. So it's a weird look. Maybe it was too long for him, so then he cut it after that. He didn't want it that long, but it's odd. Piper thinks Hulk looks ready, but Vince wonders if he'll exit on a stretcher. Piper says if he does, that'll be it for his whole career. Piper says Bravo's like the so-so girl that hangs out with the big fat girls to look better.
I love that.
We get a slow start with Hogan taking his time and some feeling out. Hogan slides out to regroup with Boss Man, and Piper says he's a bit confused for strategy. He's playing things by ear. Hogan comes back aggressively, slugs away, and tries for a slam, but Quake hammers his back and lays in some heavy blows. Piper thinks Hogan's missing his usual intensity. He's hurting. Quake methodically hammers away, but eats a boot on a charge. Hogan rattles him with clotheslines and punches, but Quake won't go down. Hogan cleans out Dino and Hart, and then finally knocks Quake to his ass with a right hand. Quake bails, but the crowd is all heated up. Hogan breaks up the meeting, and then Bossman gets involved too. They shove both Earthquake and Dino inside, wipe out both men with double big boots as the ref is letting anything go here, which Piper calls out. Bossman ends up tangled with the ref, and that allows Dino and Quake to double team, which evens things out. Quake drops a huge elbow for a close near fall, goes up top, and actually lands an axe handle, which was pretty cool. Quake turns Hogan into a Boston Crab. That was a cool visual as well. Hogan gets the rope break. Hogan rolls out where Bravo slams him, but Bossman's arguing with the ref, which Piper shits on. Quake keeps working the back over, but misses an elbow. Hogan starts to fire up. Hogan goes to the eyes and tries to slam, but Quake falls on him for 2. Quake gets a tight bear hug. Hogan slashes anything he can, even rips apart Earl Hebner's shirt. Hogan breaks free, but gets caught in a cross body, and Quake murders him with a big power slam, but only gets 2 because he covers with 1 foot on his chest. Was watching Paul Roma earlier. Quake hits a splash, but Bravo tells him to get up and do another one. Vince is eulogizing Hogan. Piper says his big mistake was he cut weight for endurance. It backfired on him. Quake hits a second one, but Hogan blows out a 2, hulks up to a huge pop. Quake tries to stave him off, but Hogan shrugs it all off, unloads a flurry as Piper says Quake is tired. Hogan hits the big boot, but Earthquake doesn't fall, so Hogan calls for and then slams into a big pop. Hogan drops the leg. Bravo ties up the ref, and Jimmy comes in. Hogan chucks Jimmy into Earthquake. Bossman cleans out Bravo. Outside the ring, Jimmy pops Quake with the megaphone by accident. Hogan slams him on the table, slides inside, and wins by countout. This was a great finish. While it was frenzied, I love the spot that warranted the countout. We don't get a weak countout. We get a slam through a table, which we didn't often get at that point. And Quake gets protected because this isn't over yet. Quake comes in and attacks Bossman, or attacks Hogan, but Bossman cleans house with a step tool, some vicious shots that leave sick welts across Quake's back. Quake leaves, and Hogan and Bossman celebrate. A super fun match. It was wonderfully booked and paced to keep engagement. Quake has been established as such a quality heel that he feels like a threat, but still stayed protected in the loss. Hogan is rock solid in his return. They kept things basic, executed well. The psychology was there with the back work. Hogan having cut weight to have endurance and outlast the tired Earthquake. And this feud will roll on. Ben, I went 3.5 stars on this one.
Yeah, I went 3.5 too. I think the argument could be made as far as the monster heel dynamic there. Earthquake may have been Hogan's best opponent as far as the big guys they threw at him, because I mean they had amazing chemistry, and there was a lot of gaga in this match, but the in the ring stuff was really, really good. It was
excellent, and we had a really good match in April. We quibbled over the booking back then at that show and how they handled it, but we pretty much get a repeat of most of it here. But yeah, I mean, it's hard to disagree. He's not his best. He's highly ranked up there.
And Hogan's posing routine at the end of this match lasted longer than about 3/4 of the matches on the show.
For sure. But this is one time I won't gripe with it too much. The crowd was dying for it here to have him back.
Oh, yeah. If you had a question of if Hogan or Warrior was the most over guy, this was answered on this night. Hogan they ate up everything he absolutely did. And then in comparison to the next match, I mean, Hogan is still the guy, and there is no doubt whatsoever after reading the crowd on this show.
Scott?
This is the culmination of one of the most well put together storylines in recent years. And Hogan, who has been on TV endlessly pretty much since 1984. And here's this extended time he was out, and you didn't really notice it. I feel like you didn't notice it in 88 when he took time off for No Holds Barred. But you definitely notice it here, and he's definitely missed. And after the loss at WrestleMania 6, which totally floored me, it's amazing how the kind of fans in the WWF that rooted for Hogan and the kinds that rooted for Warrior. As the year progressed, you notice Warrior's fan base is very specific and very, small. Younger kids were big Warrior fans. As kids got older, they kind of stuck with their hero from when they were that young. Hogan owns this company. I mean, he is the man. And this crowd in Philly is all over it. 13:09 your match time. And like I said earlier, I think just as much, and you make a good point, Ben, just as much about Earthquake in general being one of his best opponents. Here's a guy who was a relative rookie for the most part, probably in the business for a couple of years, but here he is on this giant stage, taking on arguably the biggest guy in the world in the business at that time, and just fitting like a glove. I give Earthquake all the credit in the world for being prepared and being focused and not looking lost. He had, I think Jimmy Hart adds a lot to that. I think Bravo adds nothing. But I think Jimmy Hart adds a lot to the guidance of making this guy seem like a legit sadistic killer who took out everyone's hero and made little 10-year-olds in West Warwick, Rhode Island cry, and listening to the vignettes with the music and the cross hanging in the locker. I mean, that was just fucking amazing. Amazing. And so just as much as Hogan deserves the credit, I agree with you, Ben. Earthquake, again, as a relative rookie, really learning how to be that kind of heel. I mean, maybe not the level of Andre or whatever, but pretty good for this moment in 1990 when the roster was kind of in a state of transition, I suppose. I enjoyed watching it again today with the posing and everything. What a moment, Johnny, for that building, for the Spectrum, for the fans. It was just very well put together. You could argue that you could have swapped these last two matches and been pretty good with it.
Yeah. Three stars for me, too. If you're going to do a count-out finish, you're not going to get much better than that. The crowd popped as if it was a pinfall victory for Hogan. They were pleased just the same. Combined with the boss man leaving the mark, they used a different chair than the normal folding chair. I think that was to elicit the marks on the back with less damage to Quake. And also I was impressed with Quake's cardio for a big man. Not too many rest spots, and he kept it moving. Other than the Boston Crab, he really showed great endurance for a man his size. And also I love how at the very beginning with when Bossman and Hogan were doing the double team spots and the double footers, it was like they were tag partners for they were like longtime tag partners. And meanwhile, it was about 6 months ago when Hogan was throwing Bossman off the top of the cage. But the crowd took the Bossman's turn. There's like a thin line between love and hate, and the face turn really took when he went from top heel to top face, and the crowd was behind Bossman.
Yeah, I think they were super into it too. They were like waiting for it, at that point. I think they wanted to cheer him, so it worked out well. And Scott, I think the main reason this isn't last is probably because of the cage, I'm assuming. And
yeah,
probably
we talked about that before. That's definitely it. Yeah, that's definitely it. It's the cage. No,
you're right.
Oh yeah.
All right, Sean Mooney's with Bobby Heenan and Rick Rude. Rude talks about the history of Philadelphia, ties the story here to the Rocky Apollo match, but this is reality. Warrior's life is about to change, and he has the advantage because of the cage. Warrior can't run or hide, and once the door closes, it seals his fate, and Rude will be champion. He'll take his place next to the Rocky statue outside the Spectrum. Bobby says Rude has beaten him before, and this time he does it again inside the most grueling match there is. Anything goes, and when it's over, there'll be nothing left and no sequels. Rude says there isn't going to be a rematch. Quoting more Rocky there. I thought this was excellently done. What did you guys think of this promo from Rude?
Rude was hitting on all cylinders at this point in time. I mean, he didn't have a bad promo for a good 2-3 year period, and he's such a great natural heel, and Bobby being with him just accentuated it.
I think the haircut. It does need to be mentioned that the haircut just put him on another level. It's amazing how long-haired guys were mid-carders and short-haired guys maybe weren't. But I don't know. Taking Rude more seriously was the key here to this storyline and making sure it worked. And I don't know. He just looked like a different person. And the WWF wouldn't get to reap the benefits of that. WCW would, but he just looks like a different person, The promos are even better. Much better.
Yeah. To the home crowd. I love the Roddy reference.
Yes, I agree.
SummerSlam, everything that it's cracked up to be with that great match we've just seen. And, of course, 2 title changes earlier on in the night. One of the saddest things I've seen, however, Dusty Rhodes, your walk down that tunnel here at the Spectrum, a very dejected and despondent man after what happened with Sapphire.
What I call it, Gene, is emotion. This great sport and the World Wrestling Federation is built on emotion. Sapphire took the money. That's fine. I offered up my innocence to her. She paid me back in scorn. Now only America can give me shelter from the storm. I am in a storm, baby. And walking out toward that Cadillac, many thousands of fans were screaming, when you gonna get bad, Big Dust? When you gonna get mad, Big Dust? When you gonna get even, Big Dust? Ted DiBiase, the $1 Million Man, the man that can buy anything but Dusty Rhodes, the American dream, but the American way of life that lives in his heart. So Ted DiBiase, I'm getting bad, baby, and I'm coming for you.
From the man Dusty Rhodes himself, now our broadcast colleague on the arena.
That was, I feel like that's a forgotten great angry Dusty promo, up there with some of his great stuff. I mean, it was really well done. You could feel the hatred. The paid me back in scorn is a great line. I feel like this one gets forgotten again. It's like his third or fourth great one tonight, and they all get buried behind the Duggan one, but he just does some amazing work on this show.
I gave her my innocence, and she paid me back in scorn. Oh, it's tremendous. It's Dusty.
Yep.
He has innocence
So
in
good.
1990? Yeah, right. Sure, like we believe that. It's Dusty, though. He could do anything on a dime. It's amazing that we had a stretch. I mean, obviously they were together in other promotions, but having Dusty and Jake in the same promotion, two of those, I mean, two guys that could talk literally right off the top of the head. I mean, I seriously doubt either the wallowing in the muck of avarice wasn't pre-written. That came off his head, and that line definitely did not come pre-written either. Just the essence of great promo cutting, great psychology.
To the greatness of Dusty, that here they are, they brought him in, they tried to clown him from the beginning, putting him with the polka dots and making him scoop out shitty toilets, and they put him with Sapphire, and still he could come out with a fiery promo like that, and you want to see him in his next feud. You want to see him kick DiBiase's ass. He still overcame all that and made it gold.
His dustiness still shone through, no matter what they did to him.
Yep. Scott.
Lord Al is here. He's ringside and he vamps,
Oh,
which
boy.
is not always the best idea. As the cage is erected, he runs down the stats about the cage size and discusses the rules. Just pure time filler. Gene is back with Hogan. He's feeling good. He's feeling swole. He says the world, they are building earthquake-proof buildings because he will drag the big fat dude across the country and beat him until Tunney makes him the number one contender. This is the decade of the little Hulksters. He adds a fourth amendment. Believe in yourself. He's getting a new surfboard made, going to Venice to chase sharks, hit the biggest wave he can find, a tidal wave to the top. Vintage Hogan, and already kind of throwing the jab out that he wants that title rematch that he didn't get after WrestleMania 6. Vince and Piper kill some time. Piper picks Rude to win the main event. Sean Mooney's in with Earthquake, Dino Bravo, and Jimmy Hart. Quake is a mess, drenched in sweat, massive welts across his back. Quake says the war has just begun with Hogan and Boss Man. What Boss Man did to his back deserves revenge, and he'll get it on both of them. Anytime, anywhere, Earthquake will be there. Quake shows off his back, which is just gross. Next time, Quake will inflict more damage for hitting the splash, and Hogan won't walk out. Jimmy and Dino rant, and that is that. A nice juxtaposition with these guys all sweaty and gross, while Hogan's all swelled up and pristine and clean. I thought that was a cool dichotomy between these two promos.
Yeah, no, I mean, again, Earthquake took those shots. A guy who's not been in the business very long and is just a bona fide pro all of a sudden. Amazing.
The welts.
Amazing. Yeah,
Welts
the
was so
welt.
gross.
The wealth, baby. Yeah, they're gross. I agree with that.
All right. Gene is with Warrior.
Swole.
Asks what Rude and Heenan have in common with the Liberty Bell. Says one is cracked and the other is a ding dong. It's one of his kind of infamous lines. And then does a manic laugh with Gene. Warrior blends and talks to the forefathers and rights to the title reign and all. Just a very Warrior promo. Main event time. The Ultimate Warrior. Second half of our main event. Ultimate Warrior takes on Ravishing Rick Rude, his main foil from 1989. Fink runs down the rules. Rude and Heenan strut out for Rude's biggest match to date in the WWF. Rude does the usual intro, calling the fans piss ants, and he strips down. Warrior gets a big pop as he charges out and violently shakes the cage. Warrior has some sweet black base trunks on, which I thought looked really cool. And this poor cage looks ragged. This thing is taking a fucking beating. It does not look like it's in good shape. Warrior scales the cage. Rude meets him and unloads. Warrior knocks him back, climbs in, and hits a double axe and keeps pouring it on, using the cage as a weapon. Warrior misses a charge and smashes into the cage as Piper asks what it means when he dances around like a pony. Rude is already bleeding as he tries to escape, but Warrior catches him and slows him down. Rude kicks him down, drills him with a club off the cage. Rude slings Warrior to the cage and works the back. As Piper says, guys can let their anger cloud them from escaping to win these matches. Rude yanks him up, slowly twists into a Rude awakening, but Warrior breaks the hands in a cool spot. Warrior clotheslines Rude and eats knees on a splash. Rude snaps off the Rude awakening, and instead of covering, he staggers to the door, calls for it to be opened, but then he climbs to the top and hits an axe handle. Piper's all over Rude for not escaping, and Bobby's ripping him too. Rude now goes to the top and leaps, but Warrior drills him with a punch to the gut. Warrior tries to escape, but Bobby slams the door on his head. Rude gets a near fall. The two collide. Rude stirs first, crawls to the door, but Bobby tries to pull him out. Warrior grabs his legs, and we get a tug of war. Warrior yanks down Rude's tights. We see his ass in all its glory. Warrior lets go, pulls Bobby into the cage, decks him to a pop, and throws him back outside with an atomic drop. Rude cuts Warrior down, but Warrior hulks up, knifes through him with a clothesline, hits a press slam, goes to the top of the cage, and escapes for the win. This is a pretty much paint-by-number solid title defense, a basic cage match. It kept it short, fast-paced, which kind of fits the rest of the night. No need to push it with these guys. Rude shows well, but he's clearly just not up to it yet for this task, at least at this moment. Wasn't portrayed as believable. We already saw him get beat at Saturday's main event, so he wasn't really portrayed as a threat at times. Warrior really needs a meaty feud, or this title reign is really going to die a slow death. Fine blow-off. The crowd was into it. 2.5 stars, John.
Yeah, I only went 2. It was in third place of the 3 Warrior Rude matches.
Oh, easily.
And also the commentary took me out of it too, because Vince and Piper didn't really get over how either you could escape or you could get a pin, because a couple times Rude went for a pin, and it was like that's the thing with these cage matches where it was the emphasis was on escaping, but they didn't really get over the fact that you could also win by a pinfall. So that took me out of it too. I like the Rude, the Pennsylvania Pissants at the beginning, but otherwise nothing special. A little underwhelming for especially compared to the stuff we've seen earlier.
Ben?
Yeah, 2.5. With 1 star being fully given because they did double juice. If this match didn't have double juice, it would have been an absolute stinker, I think. But Warrior bled like a stuck pig.
Yeah, the blood was good, but even that, it just
Yeah.
It just never felt in doubt. I think that was the big problem here.
Yeah, that's true.
Scott?
10:02 your match time. I agree with Johnny. As everyone knows, this is one of my favorite feuds of 1989. Did not deliver the goods in 1990. 2.5 stars. By the way, I gave the previous match 3. I agree with Ben that I think the juice helps a lot here, particularly for Warrior, that he's not invincible. And maybe that was Rude's saving grace, was that you physically see Warrior, take a beating and be bloodied and everything. And Rude was bloodied. They tried as hard as they could, but it just wasn't what it was a year earlier at the Meadowlands. That was just amazing. That was a world title quality match. This was, I think the crowd was pretty gassed after the Hogan epic, and at this point, I think Warrior is moderately cooked as champion. If Herb is already, as you mentioned earlier in the show, if Herb is already alluding to a 6-man tag feud with him and the LOD, that's not good. If you're planning future house show feuds and he's not defending the belt, that's not a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
So, otherwise, match was fine. I mean, the crowd didn't shit on it, but it definitely didn't have that energy level that it had during Hogan Earthquake. That was off the charts. This was, it's cool. Warrior wins, awesome, nice match. Love the cage. That's about it. Should have been more, wasn't.
Definitely.
The ladies in the crowd perked up when Warrior pulled Rue's pants down.
That was about it.
Showed a lot of ass. Yeah, there are a lot of wet muffs in the crowd.
He loved showing his ass off.
Oh God! All right, let's get to our awards and wrap this up. Match of the night for me was Hogan Quake. Ben.
Tie between Hogan Quake and the tag title match.
Yeah, I'm going to tag match. I'm going the Hearts and the Demolition.
All right, Scott.
Yeah, I got to go with Hogan Earthquake. The tag was really good, but Hogan Earthquake just rocked the building. Really did.
All right. That was a lot of typing. Hang on one sec.
Sorry.
A lot going on there. Okay.
Well, he's typing the Cousin Jr. match.
Yeah, thank you, Scott. Worst match of the night.
God.
I mean,
Nikolai
for me,
Nikolai Duggan and the Orients. Yeah.
Easy choice for me.
The Orients, yeah. Chunky Sato.
Yeah, probably that. Yeah, Warlord Tito wasn't no great shakes either, but at least it had Tito.
All right, the Andre the Giant Award for the MVP. I hate to do the tie thing, but I go with it here. I mean, I thought Earthquake really showed up and he looked like a star in that match. Felt like a star, but I also have to include Dusty. His pathos throughout this show, his method acting, his promos. This was kind of the Dusty show, he gets shit on through most of it. And I thought he worked his ass off to make it believable and get it across. So I kind of went with the tie of those two boys.
Yeah, definitely Dusty, in my opinion. He I mean, guy had 4 promos, killed on all of them. Didn't even necessarily get buried that much in his match. They had to use the purse.
Right.
But he carried the storyline throughout.
Johnny?
Dusty's a close second, but in an upset, I'm going to go with the Anvil, Neidhart.
Oh, wow.
The friggin' he was excellent in that tag. Just his facial expressions and everything, and the promos. Just in an upset, I'm going with him because that was the big pop of the night.
Scott?
I got to go with your two guys. I'm going to go with you, Earthquake and Dusty, or as Jesse used to call him, Rhodes. I missed that. Rhodes only weighs 250 or whatever it was. Yeah, I mean, both of them on a big stage. You have a seasoned veteran, and then you have this relative newcomer, both shining like stars.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing, both of them.
All right, Frenchie Martin for the worst work of the night. I went with Nikolai Volkov.
Bad news, but Piper should be up there too because I think he was awful throughout.
All right.
Nikolai, definitely.
Yeah, I'll give Nikolai. I'm going to give Piper the benefit of the doubt on this show only because he'd never done it before and he was kind of fucking flailing in the dark. But, yeah, Nikolai just not good. For a veteran, not good.
All right, best moment, I went with the Hart Foundation title win.
Yes, I second that.
Yeah. Dusty's last promo was so good, but yeah, the roll up after the LOD ran out. I mean, I would do the moment of LOD coming out, but the whole encapsulating that on top of the pin for the win, the crowd was crazy for that.
I'd have Dusty's last promo. That was just so epic.
It was such a good. It's forgotten in time almost that one.
Yep.
Only America can shelter me from the storm.
I give him an if and she put him back in scorn.
All right. Where are we at? Warrior Award. A lot of options for this one, for the most juiced up in the night. I went with the Warlord, though. He was clearly the most bulked up and biggest.
I'm gonna go with who the award was named after. I'm sticking with Warrior.
Ben?
So many options. You got Warrior, you got Warlord, you got Hercules, you got Dino Bravo, but I think Warlord got it.
Scott?
Yeah. Oh, yeah, Warlord. Lactating.
All right, the Rooster Award for the worst hair. I want poor Sapphire. I just
the best hair.
Wasn't her night out there with that hair.
Let your soul glow.
Ben, what do you got?
I'm going Warrior. You're
going Warrior, all right. Ben.
I mean, I can Sapphires both be the best and the worst? Amazing.
Scott.
Believe it or not, his hair was pretty awful tonight. I have to go with Mooney. He had like this weird mullet rat tail combo thing going on. It was pretty awful. It was pretty awful. I gotta go Mooney.
Mooney. All right. Get a haircut. Final grades. This one's a tough one, and this happens a lot in this era, but it's a real fun, nostalgic show. It is a breezy show to watch. It flies by. It's entertaining. The character work of the promos are great. It says in-ring, it really lacks, but the positive is there's no long matches that draw it out. Hogan Quake is the longest, and that's a good match. And Hart's Demolition is a good match. So the two best matches, they gave the most time, and the rest they kept it moving along. So I don't think it's not bad by any means because they cover for a lot of the deficiencies. So I went 6 out of 10. I don't think you'd hold it up as like a top show, but nostalgia and the way it's booked and the promos carry it along. Scott, what'd you have?
I love to overgrade this show. I really do. But now that I think about it more and more, I don't think I could do that. I mean, I'm looking back. I gave last year's SummerSlam a 10, and this doesn't even come close.
No.
I mean, it's a solid show in terms of moments. The promos, everybody's promo skills were on fire tonight. Hogan, Dusty, fucking Duggan, Bobby, Rude. I mean, everybody. When it came to the stick tonight, everybody was on. In ring, I think it was laid out as best as it could have been. I'm going to give it a 6. I think it's just better than 50%, but it's hard for me to give it much more than that. The promos carried the show, definitely, and Hogan's moment, and the Hart's winning. But, yeah, I'll give it a 6.
Johnny?
I'm going 7.
Oh, wow, all right. Rarely you're higher than us. Okay. Ben?
Yeah, I'm going 7. I think this is a case where the sum is greater than the parts.
Mm-hmm.
And it's eminently rewatchable, and a lot of these shows this time are just the drag in certain areas here and there. But this didn't, even with the shorter matches and stuff like that, didn't really seem to drag. So I'm going to give it a 7.
This definitely did not drag. 90 is such a weird year. We've seen post-Mania. The roster's thinned out so dramatically, but they do a good job here of hiding those deficiencies. Even though they leave some guys off of here that probably could have had a good match, like a Boss Man or a DiBiase, but they're all involved. So. That'll do it. Scott will be back in 2 weeks' time, unfortunately. We're hoping not to be, but we'll be here looking at the September 1990 MSG House show. We'll do that. Like I mentioned earlier on the North-South Connection Podcast Network, subscribe to that. Rate us. This week we'll have a new Wrestling Warzone. And then I think we have a Chad treat as well coming over the weekend. So be sure to keep an eye there. Also, follow my Twitter at JT the Pod Guy. I'm kicking off a little tournament I wanted to run. Be kicking off on my Twitter this week too, and there may be some audio that goes along with it. So keep an eye out there. Ben, what do you got coming up?
We got a show coming up, I think this Wednesday dropping with a couple of the more entertaining independent wrestlers that I know. What I've been really trying to do is reach out to some independent wrestlers who aren't getting a lot of spotlight, especially in this time when they're not getting much work. So, if you're all interested in independent wrestling, or you just want to hear kind of what it's like to be an independent wrestler in these times, I got a couple good shows coming up over the next few weeks or so. So that's Row 1, Seat 1, and you guys can find me on Twitter at Boston Nuga.
Johnny?
The Curb episode just dropped on the North-South. We got on this same network, we got a great debate about whatever WrestleMania is at the moment. With Tim and Matty Souza and Andy on this network. So that's about it for now.
Scott?
Well, this coming Thursday is a historic moment in the history of the Place to Be Wrestling feed, for we will have the first ever live stream podcast on the Place to Be Wrestling feed, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Myself, Nate Milton, Steve Willie, live main event. We will be previewing whatever the fuck next weekend brings, whatever it is, whatever kind of mess is handed to us. But we're going to talk about it. We'll have the link up on on the Place to Be Nation page and on the main event page, and hop in with some comments. We may have a couple of slots. Maybe we'll have some people bouncing in and out with their analysis, and we're gonna have some fun. It's 2 hours because that's as long as Podbean lets you. But we'll be on starting at 9:00 this coming Thursday night, 9:00 Eastern time on Podbean, and we'll have the link up. And join us. Let's have some fun. Comment on anything, ask us questions, what we think of the matches. We'll probably do some predictions, look ahead to the next couple months, whatever the fuck happens, and have some fun with it. So that's coming up this week. At some point, even though the NWA is suspended, the doctor and I have been talking about doing something NWA related, since we can't do the power recaps for the time being, and the Crockett Cup's been suspended as well. We may do like a live watch, or we may do a kind of a recap. NWA's YouTube channel has posted the 70th anniversary show from October of 2018, the one where Nick Aldis wins back the world title from Cody. Him and I may do a live watch, or we may, watch it and review it. Something special for the NWA, for all the fans out there, since we won't have any power recaps for a while. So stay tuned for that. That should be coming up soon.
All right.
And Johnny, on the pop feed, sorry, the list is long and distinguished. Johnny, over on the pop feed, you, me, the doctor, and Andy probably be doing, not that the schedule has been fixed, we may be doing a year in pop sooner than we thought, as we are coming up on 1981 for the next episode, so stay tuned for that in the coming weeks.
Yes, sir.
Yep, I am on Twitter at PTB Podfather. And JR, again, I want to say, you and Chad, great job so far with the connection. Excellent feed. Check it out. Been talking to Chad, asking him if he wants any help with some of his stuff. So looking forward to helping him out with some of the WCW stuff. So stay on the lookout. But definitely at the top of the list this Thursday night, 9:00, live, main event, live stream, right on Podbean on the Place to Be Wrestling feed. Looking forward to it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
And speaking of live podcasts, check out the Jenny Position feed on Podbean tomorrow, or if you're listening to this today on Tuesday, the 24th, she's doing a live podcast too at some point on there. So just keep an eye out for her social media, and that should be a fun one as well. All right, let's wrap things up. We're back in 2 weeks. That's Ben, Johnny, Scott, I'm Justin. We're out. Talk to you soon. Just remember, don't pay anyone back in school.
We were smoking things, making love out by the lake to our favorite song. Sipping whiskey out the bottle, not thinking about tomorrow. Singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long. Singing Sweet Home Alabama all summer long. As strange as when the leaves begin to change. Oh, how we thought those days would never end. Sometimes I hear that song and I'll start to sing along and think, man, I'd love to see that girl again. Man, I'd like to see that girl again. And we were trying different things, and we were smoking funny things.